bccsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
A warm welcome to you. It may be chilly in some parts of the country, but the issues that drives the National Pulse are hot, and certainly a case of fingers on the pulse. So welcome to the show. Great that you're a part of it, as always. My name is Ashraf Garda, and you can connect, you know that, 086 000 2032 with some of the biggest, the hottest issues that really impacts our psyche every single day. You can also WhatsApp 0614 104 107, and you have the option to tweet out on the social media platforms. So Twitter, the X platform, SAFM Radio, as well as on Facebook. Just add your comments, add your thoughts, but tell me what you do, where you come from. Love to be connected with exactly where you may be, anywhere in the country, because you certainly put your town or your city on the map. Use the hashtag whenever you can, the National Pulse, and perhaps answer some of the questions we talk about. Lots to talk about today, but I'll tell you now in a moment or so. We'll talk about one of the biggest issues that's developed, which is a prisoner, inmate, has been promoting the fact that he's having a great life in prison. So we'll talk about that in terms of, is that the norm or is that not normal? And if it's not normal, then what is? Prof. Somadora Fikeni will talk to us ahead of tomorrow's opening of Parliament about the move to try and develop what is a capable state in South Africa. We'll have an update on the Jacob Zuma issue in terms of him facing a disciplinary hearing with regards to the ANC, and that's certainly not all. We'll also chat to the SARS Commissioner, and to end up the show sometime much later on, we'll chat to the winner, a Wimbledon winner from South Africa. You know exactly who I am talking about, isn't it? Right. But let's get moving with the daily That's My Point feature, right? So I want to pick up on this. We know that yesterday we chatted about it. Salman Murat, named the 66th captain for the Springboks, and the bigger issue, besides wishing him well, is like, I've heard people say, like, where does he come from? Where's his community? What does he do? What's the background? And I thought about this. So, I mean, the 2-3 facts. One is he's from Paarl. His family, the Murat family, historically are rugby crazy. They all have played for a club called Vineyards in Paarl, and I believe at some stage amongst the finest club teams in the Western Cape, and they still have this steeped history in that. And many of his family members have played for the old, SARU, South African Rugby Union, when the country was very, very divided. And effectively, you could call them Springbok caps, because they're like, I think 7 of them, including his father Nazim, has also represented the country in terms of black rugby at that time. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, when you have a player, whether it's him or a Siya Kolisi, and they represent the country, you often get people almost surprised in terms of, oh, do they play rugby? Where did they play rugby? They've had to have played rugby in a white area, white school to develop. And the reality is particularly in the Western Cape and particularly in the Eastern Cape, they have strong rugby traditions. So for them, their rugby is not the white man's sport. It's their norm. It's what they did all the time. So when we talk about the Springboks and then you call the black rugby team, in fact, it's an incorrect statement, because they represented their version of the Springboks. Others represented the apartheid version of the Springboks. So why am I saying this is that too much of South Africa's history remains in the dark. And we have to change that. And therefore what we need to be doing is we need to actively unearth the history of, in this case, I'm talking rugby specifically, but it could apply to everything else too. We need to unearth the history of our stories, of our great community stories, particularly black South African stories from the period pre-1992, because that's the part that's so missing, to the point that we tend to other things. So it's like, I played for the Springboks, but you played for the Black Springboks, as opposed to, actually, I played for the Boks and you played for the Boks as well. So there's a lot of othering that takes place. So my suggestion, therefore, is this. what can we do? What can I do? What can you do to amplify as much as we can the history of black sportsmen around the country, particularly in the era pre-1992, so that we fully understand that? Because we need to learn from their stories. We need to amplify their stories. If we don't do that, then we'll have what we have now, that the understanding is that many of these players from the black communities of particularly the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape simply played rugby when they moved to white areas or white communities, whereas in reality their love for the game and their families' love for the game is as much as the love of a game of a person with a surname of, did I say de Villiers or a Botha? The love is universal. That's what I'm saying. Let's not forget these forgotten heroes. And therefore, to make my point, let me just show you this to end up with here. Let's not forget the forgotten heroes. Make every effort to amplify that past. It's that important to us. Well, I'm Ashraf Garda, and that's my point. Now, what's yours?
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, I'm sure you may have an opinion on that, so feel free to comment on that that opening line from me, 086 000 2032. In the meantime, let's get cracking with the first story. You may have seen this one. It's certainly it's gone viral. A Zimbabwean detainee, that's Boniface Banks. Well, he sparked, on the one hand, humor and outrage after a video of him in prison, I understand, boasting about having, living his best life in prison. And that's gone viral, understandably so. He's saying, no rent, chows all on the house, that sort of thing. No real concerns. Like, this is the life. So let's try and understand what this means. And is there a greater meaning to all of this? We chat to Miles Buda, who is the national spokesperson for the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights, which is the SAPHOR. Miles, good chatting to you as always. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Ashraf, thank you very much, brother. It's a long time coming.
It certainly is, right? Let's do this. So first of all, what do you make of? I'm sure you've seen the video. What do you make of that video? When you saw it first, what did you think?
You know what, Ashraf? The Department of Correctional Services has lost it 30 years down the line. These are things that should have never, ever happened in our prison. And it will keep on happening because those correctional officers who are supposed to do the right thing are demoralized. They just go with the flow. Some of their education and training is not, par with what the Department of Correctional Services should.
All right, but let's do this. Let's do first things first. Let me play a clip of that video that's gone viral, and we'll comment on that.
Yeah, hello haters. You put us in prison and you think we are suffering. No, my brother, we are doing extremely fine. Look how happy we are. This morning we had breakfast. And in the afternoon we had lunch. Yeah. And we had supper. And we are about to have dinner, my bro. We are doing extremely fine. We are not even suffering at all. We are happy. Yeah. And look here, we are not even paying rent. No. We are not buying electricity. No. Nothing, my brother. We don't even cook food. They give us food for free. We don't even cook. No. Yeah, the difference is the same, my brother. No, we are not. No, my brother. We don't need toiletries. We give for free. And the education is going to be free in prison. Yeah. We're not suffering. If you think we are suffering, no, my brother. You are wrong. Yeah, you're wrong. Very wrong.
Look how happy we are. Miles, let me ask you this. How normal is that?
Ashraf, look, you see that Zimbabwean foreign national, I won't be surprised, one, if he's been illegal in the country and has been set up to say these things. He would never ever say this where he comes from. And I think also this thing is multi-pronged. they are protesting or maybe doing this to attract maximum attention so that they can expose worse things that is happening not only at that institution. You know, in the past, prisoners used to attack correctional officers and stab them in order to attract attention. And when the minister come there, when the media come there, they then tell them exactly what is really happening in that prison. And I think it's just a setup. It is just playing it on a gallery thing. And the department should have never... I mean, what are they doing during the day after they've come from their first meal? They go into their cells, they are locked up there, and they end up doing and saying whatever they say.
Okay, so I mean, there's a couple of things to be concerned about here. First of all, I mean, is it allowed to be able to take a video? And I don't know the rights. I mean, you certainly, that's your beat. Is it allowed for an inmate to take a video in prison and then obviously disseminate it nationwide? Is that allowed?
It's not allowed, but you know why it is now the norm? The system is there, and the people that are supposed to make sure that these things are not happening has given up on the system, and prisoners are human beings, and they do as they are pleased because they can see the loopholes in the system, and they're taking massive advantage of the loopholes and do what they are doing.
So that's the first thing. It's not allowed, but they're doing it anyway, right? The second part, the claims that he's making, are those claims outrageous, or are they actually happen a lot, where in fact the life is better in prison than on the outside? You don't have to pay rent, no need to worry about toiletries, no need to worry about food because it's all catered for.
Well, look, this is a waiting trialist that says that. I want this to be said by a sentence offender. That person that says these things tomorrow might be out on bail, you know, and if there were programs, if the department was doing what the mandate says, they would never have time to play with phones that are called contraband and say all these things that are happening there. And that is why we said some time ago, go and do research in developed countries, how we could get this gadget legalized so that we use it for education, training, skills development, rehabilitation, and exposing what is happening in our prisons. Okay. And if you want to use it to commit further crimes, we will double your sentence if we can prove it beyond the reason of the doubt.
Now, in terms of where you sit, I mean, you are a champion for prisoners' rights, right? Does this video enhance your position in claiming for more rights for prisoners, or in fact, does it diminish your position to champion their rights? Does it make fun of it?
Look, I am very excited because the current minister has shown interest to meet us as an organization. After 30 years, we never had any working relationship.
I'm just going to push you quickly because what I want to know is, I'm talking about the video specifically. Does it take away from your push for more rights for prisoners?
No. What it does, it shows that we will have to come together and make sure that these rights are well packaged, these rights are implemented, monitored, and evaluated, and not this kind of thing that is being said. Why is it said by a foreign national? Because they've set him up. And the reason why he's saying that, he knows for a fact that where he comes from, this has never been seen what is happening in our country.
I'm just going back very quickly. Why was that one prison, I think in Doornkop, why was it called Sun City? Is it not for this type of reason?
No. When you come to the area which Sun City has been built, you know, they built it many years ago. The area, Mondio, they are hills, there are downhills and uphills. It looks like you are in Sun City, the environment where the prison is built. Because when you are in the prison, you can look up and you can look down where the residents are staying. It looks like it's a mountain hillside, very nice view.
So it's not because you're getting good treatment.
No. Prison is hell, my brother. Let me tell you, prison is not a place to go then and have this fun.
Okay. Do you think, and I'm going to end now in a few seconds, does this give the impression that prison is not hell, and therefore it gives us a bad image?
Yes, of course. This is a waiting trial saying this. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. For him, it's nice there, and it's been set up. And I can tell you the attention that they have attracted. That prison is going to make sure that correctional officers are doing their job, and I hope the message will be spread.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Miles Buddha, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. What do you make of that conversation around that prisoner about that sort of life?
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, would you like to comment on the conversation I just had with Miles Boodoo relating to the prisoner who's sent out a video saying basically he's having the best life? What do you make of it? What I'm trying to determine is how normal is that? Or as Miles suggests, that in fact he's been set up. Like, set up for what purpose? So you can call in 086 000 2032. You certainly can comment as well on some of the issues that we've raised. Here's one about the prisoners, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. This time from Fontaine. The last time I heard that the Department of Correctional Services had purchased a device that will pick up if there is a cell phone signal in the cells. If I'm not mistaken, I heard something like that. So it's very concerning that an inmate will boast about having a great time in prison, not knowing that which crime that he committed for him to be incarcerated. What if it's a murder and the victims' families they are seeing this video? You know, how they will react? No, I'm very disappointed, really, that the prisoners in nowadays they will have access to phones.
Okay, we'll pick up further comments on that as well as soon as we get them. There's lots of people, in fact, commenting on the prison issues. Some are talking about the issue of rugby that I raised, and in terms of amplifying black rugby communities in particular. And there's more. There's issues about SARS too, right? Let's get on to other issues now. In terms of our global watch that we do around this time every day. So you may know this past weekend, the Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa launched what is known as a process of reconciliation. That will see his administration compensate the victims of a notorious 1980s Gugu Rahundi massacre that took place at the time when Robert Mugabe was still the man in power. So let's understand what's happened now. Prince Ayanda Manala Sibindi of the Manala royal family in the Ndebele Kingdom is my guest, part of the Human Rights and Cultural Activist Department, I understand. Good chatting to you, Prince. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much. How are you and how are you?
Well, we should ask you how
listeners.
you are in terms of what is your response to what we now see as a attempt at reconciliation in terms of this massacre that took place in the 1980s?
Well, I think it's a very interesting one. It is very interesting indeed, and given the fact that how many attempts have been there for reconciliation about this thing, I think there are elements that are coming through. The first fact is that there is a problem, and everyone is agreeing that there is a problem. There is a wound that was not healed, and it is still a thorn within the social climate of that country. So in that aspect, it's a fact. But now it becomes very interesting when you see the perpetrator leading the process of reconciliation. So in other words, perpetrator is playing judge and jury. Okay, so when you say the perpetrator, who are you referring to? I think it's an open secret that His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa was a security minister during Gugurahundi genocide that happened in 1983 to 1987, where lots and lots of Ndebele-speaking people were killed. So I think for him, again, to proceed, to preside over this commission or this initiative I'm not sure whether the accused can also be qualified.
So you're saying, in fact, his perpetrator, his judge, his jury, and his reconciliation person as well, all in one go. Now, considering all of the above, then what is what is the response of you and your people?
Well, I think the response will be easy. What was the response of other initiatives like that happened? The initiatives that seek to push what is called pseudo-transitional justice, whereby everything is choreographed for a certain outcome or for a certain political outcome, not even a national outcome. So the victims will always be resistant, but also there will be some who will be victims also for that particular choreographed pseudo-transitional justice. But at the end of the day, it doesn't achieve any national reconciliation. It doesn't cover that wound permanently, which might stay a pain in the social climate of that country for a long period of time, even after the era of His Excellency President Mnangagwa. It will always be there if it is not handled properly.
So what then for you would achieve the type of healing and reconciliation that you aspire towards?
I think there has to be a very independent body within the continent or across the globe that can preside over this commission. Isn't
this a good start? Yes. You were saying, carry on.
Yeah, I think the fact that there is acknowledgement that there is a problem, then it's a really good start. It has been acknowledged before. There's been initiatives that have been taken, but the methodology is always the same, and it doesn't come out with the right outcome. Since the time of His Excellency, the late Robert Mugabe, there's been attempts to bury this permanently, but the methodology was failed dismally. I don't think there will be a different outcome right now.
What's the one sign you'd look out for that would give you hope? You're a skeptic, I understand, but what would give you hope?
I think there has to be a strong independent commission or someone who presides over it, because the accused are the Ndebele-speaking people within Midlands and Matabeleland, and the victims, I mean to say, and the accused is the Zimbabwean government, and then who was the Minister of Security, was part and parcel of the government and is heading the government right now. So I think if there is an independent structure that can oversee this process, it will be very much better, and it will have a comprehensive outcome of this process.
Okay.
And it will also not lead to the healing of the people of Matabeleland, but the whole country and the whole continent as a whole. I think we're going towards the unity of Africa, and we really are hungry and thirsty for unity, especially within Matabeleland and the whole country.
Okay, God, I appreciate you giving up your time, and your skepticism is noted. Prince Ayanda Manala Sibindi of the Manala royal family in the Ndebele Kingdom. That in relation to a move to reconcile regarding serious massacres in that region in the 1980s. But he's a skeptic. I wonder what you make of all of that. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30. Here's Madubi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, 4 suspects have been shot and killed in an exchange of fire with the police on Moses Kotani Road in Durban. Kokta Minister Velenkosi Hlabisa says he wants a memorandum of understanding to be drawn up between at least KZN, the Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape to share resources in times of disaster. And events are taking place in Amsterdam in the Netherlands to mark the 10th anniversary of the MH17 disaster, which saw a Malaysian Airlines flight shot down over eastern Ukraine. Details of these and other stories, 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a stationary track near Van Buren Road. Heidelberg Road in central Johannesburg has delays on the ramp to the M2 West, and Eskampa Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 northbound in Howick tomorrow will be closed between Lions River and Bilgowan from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Vehicles will be diverted and trucks will be stacked. The N3 in Escort has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions near the ferry exit, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, Huguenot Tunnel will be closed this coming Saturday to all traffic from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. for maintenance works. Road closures and traffic restrictions are in place around City Hall ahead of tomorrow's opening of Parliament Address event, so expect delays. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Our very own Minister of Sport. What's the big stories today?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start off with football this hour. With just under a month to go until the new DStv Premiership season, the PSL is reportedly in advanced talks with Betway to be the new title sponsor. Now, there's been reports that the PSL and DStv are going separate ways after the league sent a letter to the clubs earlier this month asking them to postpone printing the DStv logo on the sleeves of their respective jerseys ahead of the new season. This is despite the fact that the sponsorship, which is signed in 2020, still has a year left in it, and will definitely keep you up to date as this story develops. In the meantime, Maritzburg United CEO Jonas Kadodia says that he's willing to sell the franchise or change the name if there's still no solution in the battle to return to Harry Gwala Stadium. Now, last season, the team of choice played all their home games in Durban after they lost sponsorship from Umsinduzi municipality when they got relegated to the Motsepe Championship. Now, the sponsorship went to Royal AM, who now use the stadium for their home games.
Yeah, I think it's a decision that obviously we have to take. You know what, the reality is that we can't continue as Maritzburg United playing in Durban. I think you lose all your identity with even fans. I'm saying, you know what, the reality is that how can I look at attracting fans in Durban and I'm called Maritzburg United? You know what? So at the moment we're still hopeful of obviously securing the chance to use Harry Gwala together with Royal AM for the upcoming season. If not, then I think the club will have to make some tough decisions going forward and seeing what's best for the franchise.
On to rugby news. Some good news for Springbok fans in Bloemfontein. Well, the Rugby World Cup Trophy Tour continues, and it continues tomorrow at the Lodge Logan Mall in Bloemfontein. 5 Bok players, including Oxen Che, Lucanio Am, Grant Williams, Squibus Reinach, and Trevor Nyakane will be part of the parade at the mall from 1 till 2 p.m. It's the 4th stop of the Webb Ellis, and it couldn't come at a better time, especially the fact that the Boks are facing Portugal at a sold-out Toyota Stadium on Saturday. Meanwhile, Namaklaba says that a move to the Bulls has afforded him a fresh opportunity to work on his health and well-being while redefining his role as an open-side flanker. The 26-year-old joined the Bulls from the Stormers in July and made his debut off the bench in a convincing win for the third herd over the Griffins in round 2 of the Currie Cup last week. Then in tennis, some exciting news for Rafa Nadal fans as he's now on the list of the US Open draw. He has a protected ranking of 9th, which allows him to play at the Flushing Meadows. Now, Nadal won the tournament 4 times, but has missed 3 of the last 4 editions due to his physical problems. Finally, in women in sports, the Springbok women will face Japan in the opening fixture of the WXV2 on the 27th of September in Cape Town. The 3-level tournament will see 27 fixtures played across the globe. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I am Tuming Khapele.
Just a quick one. I mean, by the way, our Wimbledon winner is our guest around 10 to 6.
Nice.
Just so you know that. But would you know, I mean, I've been seeing your tweets and you've been very praiseworthy of her, so absolutely. But has she been celebrated enough? Like,
I mean, one thing for sure, she's been celebrated by G Sport, to be specific.
Right.
They've been celebrating her actually year in, year out, because I think for Cass Naidoo, she's made it a personal thing that she is going to make sure that we know that there's a KG Mwanjane out there and she's doing exceptionally well. And I remember one time I attended I think it was a breakfast thing that we had with G Sport, where the agents of KG Mwanjane were just speaking to us about how they made her brand to be as big as it is today, and how they took her from just seeing how she was performing back then, which was years back, and they could see the talent that she had, and then went on to just build her brand to being where she is right now. And I guess it's a full circle for her and her team, for her to win this Wimbledon and also make history while she's at it.
And in fact, I mean, she's won her equivalent of the Rugby World Cup.
Literally.
I mean, I know it's not a team sport, but
yeah,
that's what it is.
Well, listen, It was a team sport for her. It was doubles.
Well, it really was. Good point indeed. We will talk about that to her when we talk to her 10 to 6. Do not miss that. More sport in an hour.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, we're going to move on to other things, but I want to take your thoughts and your calls on some of the issues that we have been talking about. There's a couple of WhatsApps. Here's a couple of. In fact, let's get an anonymous caller, by the way, on the issue of her prisoners' rights. Right, anonymous. Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good talking to you. Hello. Go ahead.
I'm fine, sir. No, I've heard Miles Pudu talking, and your topic is nice, but to us who are working for the Department of Correctional Services, it's very bad. You see, since they introduced this thing, Act 111 of 1998, it came with a lot of rights for offenders or prisoners. So us as correctional officials, we have been stripped power to discipline offenders due to the Act that were created in 1998. You see, the disciplinary infringements, you can't discipline the offender. There are procedures and penalties that we have to follow, but due to the human rights things, we no longer discipline offenders because we have been stripped the powers to discipline offenders. So it's very difficult because we caught offenders now and again with cell phone and other contrabands. But it's fruitless to discipline an offender, saying, for instance, that grade A, grade B, and privileges of that offender. You took grade B for a visitation right. It doesn't feel anything to an offender because you said maybe you won't see a visitor for 3 weeks. This offender is pulling life sentence. 3 weeks is nothing for him.
Yeah,
So-
good point. Okay, well, just quick thoughts. What do you make of that video that's been doing the rounds?
It's very troubling. Yeah, I saw that offender is an awaiting trial prisoner. He feels okay. Prison is very difficult. You go to Westville where I am. Very difficult in prison. Maybe somewhere else in awaiting prisoners section where he feels.
So
it's
you mean
nice.
he doesn't know? He doesn't know because he doesn't know. All right, got that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that call. Right, let's get on to others. We discussed this yesterday about the wildfires in KZN. So Induduzo wants to comment on that. Go ahead. And what's your point?
Greetings, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Go ahead, but tell me about the fires that you want to talk about.
Ashraf, my concern is that there's roughly 14 people have been confirmed dead through these fires, and a lot of infrastructure in terms of livestock and people's households in the northern KZN parts in particular. But what is of great concern, we are not seeing the equal or competent efforts from the likes of your gift of the givers, your banks, as we had seen in the fires that took place in the Georgia, Cape Town a few years back.
Yeah. Okay.
The double standards are worrisome. The double standards are worrisome.
All right. Do you think it's double standards, or maybe they're just busy with other things, or I don't know. Maybe they haven't been invited. I'm not too sure. In fact, I hear you. I just think it can never be about double standards, because relief organizations just help. They're just there to help. In fact, they do a lot of work that government can't do, and that's really the big issue. But thanks for that call, and thanks for raising it. Okay. So let's talk about Jacob Zuma and that disciplinary hearing that's on the go at the moment. The question is, what will it achieve? We'll talk about that next.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, so you know all about this very important hearing that's taking place right now regarding the former president of South Africa, the former president of the African National Congress, still is a member of the ANC, so I understand. Prof. Ntsikelelo Breakfast with me, Director of the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution. So ahead of tomorrow's opening of Parliament, it's a significant day, the day before in this case here. What do you think this disciplinary hearing will achieve?
I think the slow pace of responsiveness of the ANC towards the Jacob Zuma matter has really caught up with them, and it has dealt with them a blow in a big way, because if you look at their electoral performance, it's the worst, because they've been sensing a danger, in my view, by not responding to the behavior of Msholozi, because they thought disciplining him before the elections will escalate the magnitude of the conflict within the ANC. So they must just let the matter slide until the elections are over. But that problem has not gone away. It has stuck with them. So I think they have no option, in my view, but to address the matter as they have done. I think the meeting started this morning at 10 o'clock. And you're quite right. This is very significant that tomorrow the president of the country, president of the ANC, is going to address the nation on his vision for the next 5 years. But paradoxically, you have a former president of the ANC, former president of the country, going through a DC, which is something that has never happened before.
It certainly hasn't. So, it may be difficult to speculate, but what do you think is going to happen?
Well, my reading of the situation is that he's going to be expelled. What else can it be? I'm sorry to say this, but I think his behavior does constitute ill discipline. How do you wear two caps and say you belong to this party, but you are encouraging people in general not to vote for your own party? Now, some people are justifying what Msholozi has done by comparing dual membership with what is happening between the ANC and the SACP. But then if you're doing that, you're not comparing apples with apples, you're not comparing the same thing, because the SACP and ANC and COSATU, they belong to the tripartite alliance, and they vote for the ANC. So this is a different kettle of fish, whereby this person says he's breaking away, he's establishing his own party, and he wants people not to vote for his own party, for the ANC, but they must vote for another party. So, the only thing you can do as a sensible party is to discipline that person. You just have to let go of that person.
And remember, this issue of the disciplinary hearing was, if I understand, was postponed from what was the initial plan just before the election to after. Yeah. The point was, I think, to defuse the temperature. It hasn't quite worked out, isn't it? Because, in fact, what has happened, there's been no problems, as one would call problems, but it hasn't stopped the ANC from shredding some serious amount of votes.
Yes, of course. I think they foresaw a challenge that there might be security threats there, and also it was, I think maybe they thought timing wasn't perfect because it was just on the verge of the election. So you don't want a situation whereby now you are accused of not having free and fair elections if you have threats like that. So I think maybe that was the rationale. But again, their electoral performance has been the worst. They dropped from 57 to 40, partly because of this matter. And the ANC has been the biggest loser. And the people who have gained, it's Umkhonto weSizwe.
Okay, so if he's expelled, as you expect it to be, so between now and the period before the election, a lot has happened. So now it is even more ridiculous if he's not expelled compared to what would have happened before. And some may say be statesmanlike, be tactical about it. It looks like, that ship has sailed a long time ago. So let's say he's expelled, okay? What then happens next?
Well, then, I think the battle lines then will be drawn. That this is no longer a member of... you seem to be smart. I'm not saying that, he's right or he's wrong, but he's smart. He did not tender his resignation on purpose because he wanted the ANC to expel him so they can project himself as a victim and say that he never walked out of the ANC by himself, that he was let go by members of the ANC, NEC or DC. So again, he's projecting himself as a victim, but I think, if you encourage people not to vote for your party, you de-campaign against your party, what do you call that? It's discipline.
Okay, and let's see what happens out of that. Appreciate you giving up your time as always, Prof. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. There you are, in terms of what may happen to the former president of South Africa, the former president of the African National Congress, Jacob Zuma. Right now, he's in literal cases facing the music. Give me your opinion about what happens next, assuming he's expelled. Or, in fact, do you think, as some may suggest, like, no way, they can't expel him, can they? I'll take your calls. We'll chat to Professor Somadoda Fikeni in a few minutes' time about the move towards a capable state. Let's understand what that means right after this.
TV licenses have developed a new GIS-linked national address database to ensure that we can communicate with all our valued license holders. We now have a visual of all licensed and unlicensed households nationwide in order to effectively communicate with you. We remind you to take note of our payment reminders and avoid paying penalties due to non-compliance or choosing to ignore your legal obligation to pay your license fees. We can communicate with all our license holders through cost-effective electronic methods, enabling us to collect license fees and continue to support the national broadcaster, the SABC, in accordance with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act No. 4 of 1999 as amended. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
We'll chat to Somadoda Fikeni coming up pretty shortly. Here's a comment on the rugby discussion we had.
Hi, Ashraf. I disagree with you when you say the people who play rugby, they've got that thing and it's not the white thing, it's from Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. You know, those people, they are very partial. When they come in, when you go into the province like Limpopo and Mpumalanga and others, they don't even consider them. The only thing, I think, like someone there is influencing the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape and little case at the end, because it seems like they got nothing to do with those provinces of Limpopo. I don't think like the rest of the Limpopo there is no rugby.
Okay, got that. But I think the bigger issue that I'm suggesting, if you hear me correctly, is like there's been, and I'm talking about historically from apartheid South Africa to now, most of the established sports has been formerly white, now government. So the facilities are still in white areas, and that we know that. So there's been this perception that there's the established sports, in this case, say rugby or cricket or whatever, and then there's how the other people played sports in their black communities. And I'm suggesting that we have to be able to highlight those missing links to our rugby and to everything else in the country, so we fully understand where they come from. So they did not come in isolation. That's really the point. Okay, quick comments before we get to Prof. Fikeni. Let me just get that one out around the issue of the prisons.
Ashraf, good day, my brother. Good afternoon, and good afternoon with your listeners too. It's Elvis here. Ashraf, you know, our prisoners, my brother, here in South Africa, is like a hotel. That's why if a man is unable to support his kids and everything, he just commit a crime to go to jail so that he can release his stress, because he knows that when he's in jail, he's getting everything there and nobody's going to bother him with this and that and that and that. That's how our prison is. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, there you are. That's another thought. Let's move on to other issues that are really important. I'll pick up that, more comments on that in a few minutes' time. So I understand there's been an MOU signed on the one end with the Public Services Commission and then the Northwest University. All of that, the big issue is around building or contributing towards the building of a capable state, which I think is so topical Because tomorrow is the opening of Parliament. On the one hand, number two, you may know that I often talk about building a champion nation. Essentially, we're saying the same thing, maybe different language. With me, Prof. Somador Fikeni, the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. Prof. Fikeni, good chatting to you as always, once again on the National Pulse.
It's always such a pleasure to talk to you as a seasoned hand in these waves.
Yeah, you are too kind. I would reflect exactly the same thing to you, okay? So you know that, right? Okay, tell me what's happened here.
We signed a memorandum of understanding or partnership agreement with the Northwest University, and we've been doing the same with other key universities and other international institutions such as your Chandler Institute of Governance in Singapore, the United Nations Development Program, because we believe that with our shrinking resources and the increased mandate of ensuring the implementation of professionalization and other public sector reforms, we will need all hands on deck. And essentially, Public Service Commission, as much as it is an oversight entity and it deals with the grievances and complaints, it is, in essence, an institution which is a knowledge institution. So it should be evidence-based, hence the partnerships that we're extending with schools of government, with universities, with think tanks globally and in the country.
You know, in terms of that, so you're saying, I mean, you know, ordinarily you'd be staying out of this, but you're involved in it as the Public Service Commission anyway, right? Perhaps maybe let's understand when we talk about a capable state, what is a capable state?
A capable state is a state that has the competence, professionalism, technical ability to implement policies and to monitor its implementation, to assess the impact, and to fulfill the needs of citizens, and to implement any program of any administration.
Do I suggest that because the MOU talks about developing cooperative agreements and structures to move towards a capable state, that in fact you're suggesting that South Africa at this point in time is a rather incapable state?
It has shown many signs of incapacity, hence service delivery protests, hence industrial scale corruption, hence poor policy implementation even where policy has been promised, hence the insecurity of people in terms of law enforcement, poor management of migration, and also poor investment environment. The collapse of certain things such as your state-owned companies, such as your logistics, entities, is a sign of such state capacity being weakened. Our defense forces, whether here or projecting its power elsewhere, the signs of the weaknesses in supporting them, all those are a sign of a weaker state. And therefore, we have to rebuild that. That's why the sixth administration made the building of ethical, capable, developmental state a number one priority, because they realized you could have all these grand scheme dreams. If you don't have the capacity, then you won't go far.
So, having said that, we have the opening of Parliament tomorrow. The seventh administration really starts their work proper now. Talk to me then about the relationship, between government, or in this case government or the state as one may call it, and then you have civil society and business and activists, all coming together if they should, or should the responsibility reside with one significant group which has the most influence to effectively move towards this capable state that we talk about?
Well, I do think that all role players, from government to private society, civil society, faith-based organizations, women's organizations, youth, and so forth, ought to play an active role in civic life. But they do have delineated roles. For example, public policy making will be your government, your public representatives, doing that and consulting with society. Investments, job creation, government does create an environment for that. It does employ some, but also let business do that, depending on the type of society and economic system. So all those, if we have this consensus-building national dialogue, it should bring all those who have been disaffected, who are no longer participating. Remember, we have almost between 36 and 38 million people who are 18 years and over, which means eligible to vote. But only 27 million are registered to vote. Just over 16 million even bothered to vote, which means the largest party there only had over 6 million out of 38 potential voters. So that tells us that people have distanced themselves. There is a legitimacy crisis that we ought to sort and resolve through this dialogue and the new blueprint, but by involving those sectors.
Okay, is that how you see it? I mean, that it is a protest. In fact, they are distancing themselves from the electoral process, or is it a case of tremendous dissatisfaction? So not so much a protest distancing, but in a case of complete apathy, and which one for you is worse?
Well, apathy and protests are shades of the same coin, because apathy suggests that you no longer see your role being played in that particular space and you have become indifferent. But dissatisfaction, you say, I'll express myself through Twitter, I'll express myself through other forms, but I'm unhappy, I'm opposed to what is happening. But most important, when you have a constitutional democracy, it's for people to find expression of their grievances within the system instead of outside the system.
So now, as we get to news time, just the last thought, therefore, we now have a situation of a rather, for us, unprecedented, if you just erase 1994, of this government of national unity that effectively takes their jobs, takes their office seriously tomorrow, right? Is that going to make it easier to try and move towards a capable state, or would that make it even more difficult?
If you have visionary, mature political leaders who see national interest and constitutional imperatives more important than transactional relationship as to who is better than which one, and the mutual suspicions that sometimes get displayed. If we have such maturity, then they'll create that space for a capable state, because they'll realize that whatever they want to do, it will have to happen through public service that is capable, that is ethical. That is also developmental in its orientation.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. Certainly lots to consider, lots to reflect, and perhaps giving us new meaning in terms of what are the big signs we need to look out for tomorrow and beyond tomorrow. That's the opening of Parliament. Professor Somadora Fikeni is the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. I'm sure we'll have further chats on that and many other issues with him sometime down the line. But you, as part of the audience that contributes to the national pulse and the psyche of the nation, well, here's a chance for you to comment. What do you make of what was said? Let's add to the conversation. Bring up your own solutions too. And you can call in or WhatsApp, or you can also tweet out on our social media platforms. Just find us on X or on Facebook. We'll take that as well. Let's get the news headlines now. Rather, the news proper. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Madubi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf Garda. The top stories this hour. Suspects killed in a Durban shootout and a fatal hijacking incident in Cape Town. A very good afternoon. 4 suspected criminals have been shot and killed in an exchange of fire with the police on Moses Kotane Road in Durban. A 5th suspect was critically wounded. The suspects were wanted by the police for a range of crimes. ALS paramedics spokesperson Gareth Jameson.
Paramedics can confirm that 4 people have been declared deceased on the scene, and a 5th one is a short while away being attended to by paramedics. This is an active crime scene, and Sparks Road has been closed off in both directions from just after Randalls Road and up until Loxley Drive. So I'd advise all motorists to avoid this area at all costs, as it's going to be an active crime scene for quite some time. Further updates to follow.
In Cape Town, 4 people have been killed during an alleged hijacking incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police say reports suggest that as the 3 suspects attempted to get away, they collided with an SUV and a truck. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg.
Mitchell's Plain Police registered 4 counts of culpable homicide following a fatal crash on Baden Powell Drive, in which 4 adult males died. 3 suspects and the truck driver were declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel. The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation. Anyone with any information about this incident is kindly requested to contact Crime Stop.
Kokta Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says he wants a memorandum of understanding to be drawn up between at least KZN, the Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape to share resources in times of disaster. He says they will start with these provinces because they are flood-prone. Hlabisa is visiting the Boston area in the KZN Midlands, where 6 firefighters died during a veld fire at the weekend. A total of 14 people died in fires in the province last week. It's emerged that there's been over 300 fires in KZN over the past 10 days. Minister Hlabisa.
We want to get into an MOU so that whenever one of the 3 provinces is being affected by disaster, we are able to mobilize quickly every human personnel to come and assist. You know, if you deal with fire for many hours, fatigue comes in, and your reading of the speed of wind might not be as fast as you started. When the people are involved in disaster, there is a need to relieve them.
Hlabisa says a decision will be made by tomorrow at the latest about any declaration of a disaster. He says apart from 14 fatalities, 19,000 hectares of grazing, 1,000 hectares of crops, and 1,000 head of livestock have been destroyed in the fires. Hlabisa says about half of the affected farmers are subsistence farmers.
The government, you need to follow certain processes, document certain things. Our staff is on the ground as we are speaking, ensuring even on their side to verify the information that has been presented before us. If not before the end of the day, by tomorrow, a decision will have been made on our side. But the reason that we said, let us go there fiscally, is because we understand that from a simple point of view, this is a disaster.
And events are taking place in Amsterdam in the Netherlands to mark the 10th anniversary of the MH17 disaster, which saw a Malaysian Airlines flight shot down over eastern Ukraine. At least all 298 people on board, most of whom were citizens of the Netherlands, died in the 2014 crash. A Dutch inquiry determined that the aircraft flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur was shot down by a Russian-made missile. The rocket is believed to have been fired by forces loyal to Moscow. Russian troops first entered neighboring Ukraine in 2014, with Moscow launching its full-scale invasion in 2022. More from the BBC's Anna Holligan.
There'll be 2-minute silence. The names of all 298 people on board will be read out by their loved ones. For the relatives, what they want today is for the nation to pause and remember, but also to keep pushing for state accountability, because although those 2 Russian nationals and 1 Ukrainian were found guilty in absentia by a Dutch court, they have never served time, and many believe it was actually Russia who was overall responsible, something, of course, the Kremlin has continually denied.
The top story at 4 suspected criminals have been shot and killed in an exchange of fire with the police on Moses Kotane Road in Durban. For SAFM News, ke Modupi Makgalemele.
In your headlines this hour, 2024-25 PSL season set for delay due to new sponsorship deal, and Erasmus reduces squad to 25 players. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a stationary truck near Van Buren Road. Heidelberg Road in central Johannesburg has delays on the ramp to the M2 West. In Midrand, the N1 southbound is slow moving towards Buccleuch interchange, and Summit Road westbound has delays at Blue Hills. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash reported near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The M7 has roadworks with traffic restrictions towards the Bel Air Road, Wakesley Road junction. The N2 southbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road northbound is queuing towards Somiso and Kwanyana Road. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Milner Road, and Brighton Road in Kraaifontein is slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gagi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up. S3.
Could you be paying less for your car insurance? Outsurance has comprehensive cover with all the bells and whistles. An essential cover for cars older than 5 years under 125,000 Rand that aren't financed.
I am Flip. I'm from Vredendal. I'm 54 years old. I'm only paid 267 Rand for my 2005 Ford Ranger from Outsurance Essential.
Whether you choose comprehensive or essential cover, Outsurance will make sure you don't pay more than you have to for car insurance. SMS out to 30754 now. Even if you just save a few $100s a month, it could add up to thousands a year.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. I'm 31 from Durbanville. I pay 770 Rand a month for my 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross from Outsurance Comprehensive.
Do it now. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so what for you moves the National Pulse today? We can certainly talk about some of the things I've chatted about before, using the example of Salman Murat about rugby in black sporting communities and whether enough has been done to highlight their role historically in our country in terms of these established black rugby communities, and very little is known about them outside of their communities. What do you think about that? We've chatted about Jacob Zuma and that DC with the ANC and the move, according to my expert, it should be expelled. That his views. What do you think of that? What will happen when he does get expelled, if anything, right? We've also chatted about that whole issue of the inmates in prison. He's awaiting trial, but he seems to be having a great life. So he says, what do you make of all of that? What would be his motive besides to trend? So what I'm saying is he not making fun of this? We'll chat to correctional services themselves later on, but you have your own opinions on that, right? And more, that comment from Dr. Somadora Fikeni about moving towards a capable state. And the other issue is the issue of water. We've been talking about water, it seems like every single day of the week. Maybe that reflects just how important water is to our country, to our lives, isn't it? So I hear now there's a move towards the formation of a state-owned enterprise for water. We've already got something called ESCOM. So where does this all differ with regard to water? And I understand some people are giving it a thumbs up, others are not. Let's find out what the story around it is and what's likely to happen. Dr. Friedel Adam is with me, the Executive Manager of Water Can. Friedel, good chatting to you as always. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
And thank you for having me on your show, and good afternoon to all your listeners.
Thank you. Right. So give me the backstory, yo. Is there a move for a new water SOE, and if so, why?
So this is not a new development. It's been on the cards since, I think, Minister Sisulu. So it's been almost something that's been on the back burner for quite a while. And then when things started moving again with Minister Mkhunu, this then came back to the fore. So you're right, it is about establishing a state-owned entity on water.
Okay. Is there a need for it?
Look, my view, and I think you've kind of alluded to it, and many others like myself, is that because we have seen how state-owned entities have actually led the country in terms of funds and water, we're a bit nervous, right? And why do we need to add another state-owned entity? It adds budget. It creates more, a whole nother chunk of what could be used for actual work into an entity like this. So there are concerns about this.
Well, I mean, what has been the motivation? Not so much from your side, but from those who've motivated. I would think people in government, right? What's the motivation for them?
Look, I think the motivation came through during those years where the department was just not operating well. And there was a lot of things happening across the department and people couldn't keep track of what was going on. So the idea was to have one agency that can do quite a bit of what the Department of Water and Sanitation does, but also bring in the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, which was being mostly around the Lesotho Highlands project. So bring that all under one roof.
So currently, help us understand this. I mean, who, and I'm using the word govern and I'll use the word manage, who governs, who manages the flows of water and then regulations around it. We seem to know a lot more about Eskom. That's my point.
So the thing is, so who would be doing that with a new state-owned entity, or who does that now?
Well, perhaps both. I mean, who does it now and how would that change?
Yeah. Okay, so that's mostly done at national government level. So in terms of policy, any legislation change, and we've gone through amendments to the Act recently, that will still be at the Department of Water and Sanitation. That is their purpose. But I think what they're saying they want to hive off into the state-owned entity is to look at the operation of dams, building new water infrastructure. But you're talking about the kind of big projects and canals and pipelines operated by the Department of Water and Sanitation. It will not so much work on the kind of issues that you and I are feeling at a local level, local government level. That is still a local government responsibility. So it doesn't change that for us on the ground, in a sense.
So therefore, I mean, you sort of mentioned your skepticism earlier on. I mean, amongst the skepticism would be what? Bloated bureaucracy, again, another cost factor, and sometimes, two can be less efficient as one. I mean, which one do you see it as?
So that's the thing. If we have a department that's working properly and that there's openness and transparency, which there is now, I'm wondering, why do we need a specific entity to deal with this? And I think a lot of us are asking the same questions, and maybe what should have happened, instead of the new minister just announcing this during his speech, was actually for them to remind people about the state-owned entity and what exactly is the purpose of this and whether it's still needed. Because the idea was, many years ago, is it still relevant now? And if it is, something like this can work, but actually what is needed is then you need proper governance and you need to be able to have transparency. The thing that concerns us is that, look, already for many of the big bulk operations, we don't fund it only as South Africa. We do get loans for it, right? Mm-hmm. But how do we keep track of those loans? At a government level, we can keep track of the loans that they get. if it becomes a state-owned entity, will we have the same access to the information in terms of how the governance, the funding, all of those avenues? And those are some of the things that we need to figure out.
Here's the last thing. We effectively have now kicking in the 7th administration. Is that likely to change any decision-making around this? Meaning, could there be a complete U-turn? Because we're now operating at a very, very different level compared to one party determining what is right for the country.
I think that a lot of what the Department of Water and Sanitation has put in place since Ngunu seems to be supported across the GNU. So I think we'll find a lot of that going through. What we need to watch out for, and I know that my colleagues at the Department of Water and Sanitation always say that that's not the direction they're going in, but it's the privatization of our water and the privatization of, whether it's in the rollout, whether it's in smaller entities or dams or whatever. We need to keep track of that. And that is, when the minister announced this, she said it needs the funding. We don't have the funding for it, so it's not going to happen anytime soon, I don't think, but it needs private sector funding. And what does that mean?
Well, what does it mean? Does this private sector funding mean privatization? Does it mean co-ownership?
Exactly. Those are the kind of things we need to find out, because does it open the door to privatization in small ways, break that crack, and then it just becomes a downward spiral? How do we make sure that there is already private funding happening, but it's when it's private-public partnerships that maybe there could be avenues for privatizing. And we've seen some of it in KZN, where you have private companies actually responsible for giving people water, etc. And we have bad examples like in the UK where this is just not working.
What's the best practice model, for a developing nation like ours when compared to others around the world?
I think because our focus should be that all people need to get clean drinking, safe sanitation, all of that. That the idea should be about making access available, and that can only be done properly from a government perspective, from a government kind of entity.
Okay.
So it doesn't make sense for private companies to say they want. Look at the gas issue, Ashraf. The Igoli gas issue in the east of Joburg, where they decided this is not cost effective, so they just shut down.
And that's no good. I mean, you can't have that situation. I think point well made. Dr. Fidel Adam, let's leave it at that. WaterCan's executive manager. Well, the key word about WaterCan is can we get water? And does it mean the establishment of a water SOE, or do we have that already within the various departments? So what do you make of that? But I think the bottom line to all of this is this the right approach to have with regards to ensuring that every South African, every person living in this country has access to water, running water, or don't we? We'll get to further calls on the issue of, inmates in prison waiting trial after this.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, lots of people have strong views about that awaiting trial prisoner. And I wonder, on the one hand, it's straightforward. He's having a great life. Miles Boodoo says, in fact, he's being set up. I'm trying to understand why would that be the case. He seems pretty happy. There's nobody holding him down. But the other, and this sounds rather bizarre, considering his awaiting trial. Is it possible, just possible, that he's done it literally to trend on social media with that in mind, to say, come on, let's have some fun here. Let's see how this goes. Okay? Let's get thoughts. Anonymous in prison. Have I got that right? Hello?
Hey, hello, Mr. Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Good to talk to you. Right, so what's your point?
Hey, Ashraf, man. Hey, you see that we do, Ashraf. I'm not happy because you see what is happening there, Ashraf. It's going to affect all of us here in prison. As we are when I'm talking to you now, I'm in maximum. And what is happening, Ashraf, is going to affect all of us because those officials, now they're going to just come and search us and took our phone, and we are struggling to find this phone. And it's too expensive. And that person is on trial. You see, and as we are here in maximum, many years here, but when it's happening, it's going to affect all of us. It's not only going to happen to him. for those who have been...
All right, so let's get clarity here. You're in maximum prison, that's what you're saying. Are you allowed to use a cell phone or not?
Yeah, I'm not allowed, Ashraf. I'm not allowed. Even now, I'm talking to you now. Even maybe tomorrow or any time they can just come and search us and took my phone. You see, I know very well this thing is not allowed, but it's what we.
All right. Are you allowed to listen to it? Are you allowed to listen to SAFM while you're in prison? I'm just trying to understand.
Radio is allowed, Ashraf. I'm listening to you every day. SAFM is my favorite station. I'm listening to SA 24/7.
Okay, got that. Well, I hope that you'd one day be rehabilitated and you can be an active citizen in our country and do great things, right? So in the meantime, you're suggesting that the position of that awaiting trial prisoner is going to spoil it for all of you. Why is he going to spoil it?
Because they were going to search us, Ashraf. And when they take us our phone, you see, it's going to be our problem. It's going to be a problem because you see, we are struggling to find those phones. It's not easy. Like now, Ashraf, I'm talking to you now. Like maybe phone that is outside is 500 rand. Here in prison is 2,000 rand. You see, and it's not easy to find that money. Some of us, our family is abandoned in the ASEAN prison. They're no longer visiting us. They're no longer doing nothing for us. We are just struggling to at least to have something to survive. Even the food that they are talking about, or here they are just giving us food. What? They give you a small food that you are, even if you eat that after finish that food you are not even your stomach is not even full. You see.
Okay. All right, got that.
Nice.
And he says it's very nice. Okay, well, look, thanks for connecting with us, right? And hopefully, I can't say hopefully they must keep your phone. Who am I to decide what's the law and what's not the law, right? But you certainly can listen to the National Pulse, and fingers on the pulse, you connected to us. And for that, I'm certainly appreciative, and hopefully that will have an impact on your life going forward. Thank you for that call, Anonymous. Yeah, okay. That doesn't happen every single day, does it? One prisoner complaining about another prisoner, while both of them are in prison and they're using the vehicle of the show, the National Pulse is what it's called. We'll talk to the SARS Commissioner after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, we haven't quite had that where a prisoner would complain about SARS while he's in prison. But yeah, strange things happen in the world. Now, we know that it's tax season. The SARS Commissioner, Edward Kieswetter, has expressed some form of gratitude with the many taxpayers who've interacted with SARS over the past 2 weeks, basically doing what they've been asked to do in terms of the tax filing season that's come out. Right. Let's, however, pick out some thoughts from him in terms of what's happened. There's been issues about rebates. There's been some snags, I understand. But I mean, overall, whether we like it or not, we know without paying taxes, the country can't function. And if we want to have a capable state, as per the conversation with Prof. Somadoda Fikeni, then we need monies to do just that. So we have with us SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter. Good chatting to you, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you. So give us some bullet points in terms of where you are now, about some of the highlights that's emerged from this tax season.
Well, first of all, I think that in line with our objectives to make tax eventually a non-event for individuals, we have about 8 million taxpayers that we, in our estimate, expect will have to be assessed between now and the 20th of January, both provisional and non-provisional. About 60% of that 8 million, or about 5 million of them, we have actually already assessed. And we did that through what we call a auto-assessment offering. And what's really a noteworthy but also world-class performance is that SARS is able to do this by using our supercomputation power and then building, using that, working with the big data set that we get from various service providers like employers, banks, pension funds, medical aids, etc., and then crunching all of this data, applying data analytics, machine learning algorithms to produce these assessment outcomes. And to be able to come to an individual and say, we have done your assessment for you. Log on to our Mobi app or e-filing. If you're happy with the outcome, you don't have to do anything. Your refund will be in your bank account in about 72 hours' time.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 5 million, I can tell you, we have about 50,000 who chose to edit their return, and that functionality is available. But only half of them really made a meaningful change, and it's typically people who have a claim for solar panels, as it is permissible, or additional out-of-pocket medical expenses, or travel logs.
Okay.
In addition to that, when filing season opened yesterday, we are now tracking close on to 400,000 taxpayers in addition to the auto-assessment who have already also filed. So we have about 5.5 million taxpayers who have filed. We've paid out about just more than 10 billion of refunds to over 1.6 million taxpayers already.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I think nothing appeals to people more when they submit tax returns to get a refund. I mean, it's such a great incentive. On the other hand, there's been this ongoing story about people saying, I just pay far too much taxes. I simply can't afford it, and therefore, what they try and do, if they possibly can, is to not just avoid paying taxes, but to evade paying taxes. Right? How do you manage the communications around that? That means. And I know a lot of it has been done before, but still to convince people to be on side as opposed to off side with regard to tax returns.
Ashraf, I always tell my friends, I tell business associates, and wherever I can, that firstly, if we want a working democracy, you spoke about a capable state, then we as citizens pay for that through our taxes. Secondly, we're a country with high levels of unemployment, with inequality and poverty. Wealthy people can insure themselves against disasters like the pandemic or floods. They can buy themselves private education, private healthcare, and private security. Poor people, those who are vulnerable, they are absolutely reliant on the provision of goods and services by government. And so if we withhold our taxes, we're not hurting government. We're hurting the very poor people whom we should be supporting and whom we should be reaching out and being neighborly towards. So I am not a strong supporter of those who advocate to withhold your taxes. Of course, none of us we'd rather have the money in our pocket. But instead of building higher walls and protecting ourselves, we should just reach out and help our neighbors. And for me, paying taxes is one way where we demonstrate our commitment to South Africa, but also our neighborliness towards fellow South Africans less privileged than ourselves.
Now, you mentioned just lastly, the use of technology and algorithms and perhaps artificial intelligence to maybe to do the work that you do. I think your department has been regarded as one of the most efficient that we have in the country. Having said that, what are your thoughts about your level of efficiency at SARS, and if there's room for improvement? What are you still short of, and what needs to be happening next?
So I think the investment in data science and technology must continue, because there is no way we can process around about 30 million declarations from taxpayers across all tax types by getting human beings to capture the information, to apply their mind, and to make the assessment. And so we've built very sophisticated technology that allows most taxpayers to submit their information to us online. Secondly, we then have sophisticated models that will calculate the information and that is declared against the tax laws and produce an outcome that either says you are in order, you've paid enough, or you have an amount due to you or amount due by you. Then, in addition to that, we run it through our risk profiling to test whether there are any risks that potentially could be impermissible refunds or underdeclared income. We could not do that without. So that's a huge area of investment.
Okay.
The second area of investment is the world is becoming a more complex place. Business models are evolving. So our own staff must learn to operate in an AI-enabled environment where we use insights from data to apply ourselves to the work that we do. Select investigative work in order to...
And I gather you're doing just that. Let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. I presume we're going to have some senior conversations around these issues. SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter, thank you for giving off your time. Well, there you are. You want to have a capable, effective state? Then SARS your man, if that makes any sense to you. Let's get to the news headlines now. It's just gone 4:30 with Madubi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, police say the 4 suspects killed in a shootout with the police this afternoon on Moses Kotane Road in Durban were en route to execute a hit on a man and his 2 bodyguards. Kokta Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says he wants a memorandum of understanding to be drawn up between at least KZN, the Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape to share resources in times of disaster. And opposition parties in Botswana are complaining that they are not allowed access to the voters' roll ahead of elections in that country later this year. Those are your headlines. Greg has your full update at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a stationary truck near Van Buren Road. Kleurkop Road eastbound has delays towards Zierfontein Avenue. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash before Beklu Interchange, and the N4 Witbank Highway westbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle reported after the N1 highway. In KZN, the N3 northbound will be closed tomorrow between Lions River and Balgowan from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Vehicles will be diverted and trucks will be stacked. The N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley Interchange, and Umgeni Road northbound is queuing towards Connaught Bridge. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Jiptiaga Avenue. Darling Street in the CBD is closed in front of City Hall, and Lisbeck Parkway outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Well, Tumi, we often end with the business of sport. Let's start with the business of sport.
Well, talking about the business of sports, just an update on the story that I started with just last hour. And now it's that the start of the 2024-25 season of the Premier Soccer League is set to be delayed. This is due to the finalization of the new sponsor. The new season was set to kick off on the 17th of August and might now start 2 weeks later. As you remember earlier on, I did say, according to SABC Sport, PSL is in advanced talks to replace DStv as a title sponsor. Betting company Betway has reportedly backed the lucrative deal, beating rivals Hollywood Bets, who were also in negotiations with the league. Elsewhere, Chelsea have begun disciplinary proceedings against midfielder Enzo Fernandez after he posted a video on social media that the French Football Federation said included an alleged racist and discriminatory chant. Yesterday, the FFF said that it would file a complaint to world governing body FIFA over the video featuring a song sung by some of the Argentina squad about France's black players. Fernandez's Chelsea teammate Wesley Fofana, who has one cap for France, posted an image of the video on Instagram describing it as uninhibited racism. Fernandez has eventually said that he's truly sorry for the video that he posted as Argentina celebrated winning the Copa America. Then the countdown continues to the Olympic Games. 9 days to go to the Paris Olympics. And as part of the tradition, Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo took a swim in River Seine to show that the river is clean enough to host the Games outdoor swimming events. Around 1.4 billion euros was invested to prepare the Seine for Olympics by specifically preventing sewage leaks in the river. It's not until recently that the river failed daily water quality tests, with a lot of concern over the Seine's flow and pollution. Now, It's all ready to go. Then in rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Rasmus has reduced his squad from 41 to 25 for the Portugal test after the expanded squad wrapped up their main preparations for the closing match of the Castle Lager incoming series. Now, this decision is to give a group of players a well-deserved break before the Boks begin their preparations for the 2024 Castle Lager Rugby Championship campaign. 16 players were released, and most of them are the ones that were part of the winning squad at the Rugby World Cup. Only 2 regular players in Oxen Chair and Grant Williams were not released. Finally, in tennis, second seed Holger Rune advanced to the second round of the Hamburg Open with a 6-4 and 6-4 victory over Fabian Marazon. Elsewhere, third seed Argentine Sebastian Baez defeated home hopeful Dominic Kupfer 6-2 and 6-3. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
And I think, did you study this Chelsea Argentina racist outburst or the chanting in the bus? Have you been looking into it?
I haven't really seen the video, but I've been seeing the complaints around it in terms of the subtle racism around it as a whole. But yeah,
if somebody knows more, let us know. But I see, interestingly enough, his players from the Chelsea team now have sort of unfollowed him.
They have.
Which is the quickest way on social media to say, you're not my friend any longer. They unfollowed him. And the suggestion is, like, although he's apologized very quickly from Chelsea, they didn't waste time on it. Is that a way out or what? I mean, could he survive in the Chelsea Football Club?
And that's a big question, because I'm assuming a big club like Chelsea would not want to be associated with a player that has anything to do with racism as a whole.
Yeah. Is it complex? Well, let me not answer that. Thank you. Right. Okay. More sports in an hour, right?
Right.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget. I think there's a typo in the script, no? No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief. Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best jaw with the $1 Million Wedding Planner this Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, with me is Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Two things, of course, the local and global markets, but before that, there's some interesting news regarding BHP. So, Makwe, good chatting to you. Hi.
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners. Yes, BHP, the guys delivered strong operational performance with record iron ore production and highest copper production in over 15 years. That is copper production up 9%, and the guys received strong prices in key commodities. Copper and iron ore prices were higher. Coal prices remained stable, but nickel and energy coal prices were lower. And when it comes to the markets, optimism that the U.S. Central Bank will cut rates soon, alongside signs of U.S. retail resilience, supported some risk-on sentiment, while increasing chances of Donald Trump presidency raised concerns over geopolitical and trade risk. And the U.S. warned a list of stricter trade rules in the crackdown on China that it served to dampen sentiments, and market participants are adjusting portfolios amid bets that interest rate cuts are imminent. And locally, our May retail sales increased by 0.8%. That's after increasing by 0.7% in April. Oil prices rebounding as signs of tight U.S. supplies, helped with worries of worsening demand in the rest of the world. Brent crude is up 1.1% at $84 a barrel, and the yellow metal continues to notch new records, lifted by increasing conviction that U.S. rates are coming down in September. And we see gold is up 0.2% at $2,470, and platinum up 0.7% at $1,010. The Dow is up 0.4%, S&P is down 1%, DAX down 0.2%, FTSE up 0.4%, CAC up 0.1%. Rwanda, JSE is down 0.5%. We've just been tracked down by our financials, which are down 1.4%. And the red weekend against the US dollar, 18.19, 23.69 to the pound, and 19.89 to the euro.
Okay, that's it for the day. We'll certainly connect with you tomorrow. Perfect, Makwe. Thanks for your time as always. We'll have another update, by the way, regarding the markets coming up in just under an hour's time. Right, there's so many people, and maybe this is just the great thing about the show. We are able to connect nationwide. We're able to connect nationally and internationally, but also we're able to connect on a range of issues and every one of those issues we know affects you, and in fact it's a mirror of the mood and the pulse of the nation. So let's get to some of the voice notes on some of the issues we've been talking about. That prisoner caller we had, the anonymous one, remember?
Ashraf and team, this man is talking to you from a phone from prison. That's contraband. People are in prison for different reasons, and there is one set of rules for all. Because in some of those prisoners are there for internet porn, abuse of children, and they should not have access to the internet. So, sorry guy, listen to the radio and send in your letters if you want to raise your views. But your contraband is not good for you, and it's not good for everybody else that's in prison, because you have access to things that lands you up in prison in the first place.
Well,
Thanks,
there you are.
Ashraf.
Thank you so much for that call. You never gave your name, but there you are. Love it if you give your name if you're sending a voice note. Try and keep them to 30 seconds. It just helps efficiency. And if you're calling in one solid point, but great if you give your name as well. Well, I mean, that's what the prisoner himself said. He said, you know what? This guy who's done the viral video is going to make trouble for us now. We're going to lose our privilege of a mobile phone. And I thought, is it legal? No, it's not. But I've got it anyway. Yeah, we don't live in a strange world, don't we? We'll pick up other thoughts as well. There's been, what about SARS?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I just want to ask Mr. Kieswetter concerning the security guards that are working for private companies, where the company does not give them IRP5. How does that work according to SARS? That comes from Terence.
Okay, Terence, sorry, he's gone. I mean, obviously it's a short interview on a broad conversation. Maybe we need to get him or somebody else to answer sort of a range of issues very specifically. I mean, we plan that in advance. So I hear you. Sorry, maybe if we can connect you to someone from SARS. Perhaps you can actually, if you just drop them an email, they'd probably respond. Very efficient organization, I can tell you now. By the way, there's news now that the ANC has postponed the disciplinary hearing of its former president, former leader, Jacob Zuma. I'm not too sure why. We'll follow that story shortly, but that disciplinary hearing now, which was set for this morning, in fact, at 10 o'clock, has been postponed. Whether it's postponed as in having started or postponed for the day until a later stage, I don't really know. We will find out. We need to find out and give you the information that we know you would require as well. But it doesn't stop us having a comment on Jacob Zuma.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Mpiwa here. I think if he is expelled, that will give him more time to sharpen up his bows and arrows, to ensure that he finishes the ANC piece by piece. So I think that will be a very, it's a right, maybe a decision for the ANC to make, but at the same time, that will give him more reason, to destroy the ANC in whatever way he can. I think that's my take on it, Ashraf. Cheers.
Okay, thank you for that. And there's another voice note about the ANC's double standards.
A very good day, Ashraf. Ashraf, there are double standards in this ANC. Not so long ago, councillors voted with the opposition in KZN, and they were immediately fired. But they dilly-dally with others. I think others are more superior than others. That's why the ANC lost the elections. It's because of this dilly-dally story. It's Marvin in Bloemfontein. Thank you, Ashraf.
The dilly-dallying cost them the election. How interesting is that? Let's get back to the prisoner's story. LJ is on the line. Hello, LJ.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. I'm glad that you're connected. I haven't spoken to you before. I don't think so. So welcome indeed. And what's your point?
Thanks, man. I just want to quickly comment on the talk you had with the nice guy who's representing the rights of prisoners. And for me, you ask him very, very important questions, and he did not bother to answer them. I don't know why. But you asked him a very important question. You said to him, this video, what does it do? Does it give thumbs up to his rights or fights and all of that, or does it make it a point that what he's fighting for is not there? But he did not want to respond to that. But my point is, Miles is in business, obviously. We know that he's in business. He has to keep himself relevant, his organization relevant in terms of fighting for the rights of the prisoners. But this video, it's exposing the fact that South African prisons are like hotels. Even in the Sun City matter that you asked him, he kept telling us things that are not there. We know very well that the Sun City name is a nickname because it has been perceived to be a hotel, that prison. So the reality of the matter is that prisons in South Africa are not supposed to be what they are supposed to be. You know, they are prisons, but people are enjoying themselves. And that guy, what he demonstrated to us all that prison is not as bad as we thought. And for Miles to comment like that, I feel it's not fair. And
all right. So, LJ, thank you for that. We'll move on. Let me put it this way. I agree with you. I think Miles was talking about a whole range of other issues that I think were not directly related to what I'd asked him. That's the first point. The second part, I don't think that what that person, the video, the creator, the content creator, let's call him that, or the TikTok influencer, what he's expressed about his experience in prison, I don't think, he may be completely accurate. That means he's giving one perspective. Remember, he's an awaiting trial prisoner. So that may change for him, okay? As others have suggested, in fact. On the other hand, it could be somewhere in between. There are some perks for some people that gives them a better life than we think, but for many people it's miserable, and I've heard many, many, many examples of saying you do not want to go there. By the way, we'll chat to the spokesperson for correctional services coming up after 5, and I'm sure he's going to answer those questions, so do not miss that. Thanks for that, LJ. Let's get to Chaka in Bloem. Chaka, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, good indeed. Go ahead. Your point?
Yes, on the question of prisoners. The prisoners are having a good time in South Africa. There's basically no punishment for the crimes committed. Look at what happened to this gentleman, this financial advisor for VBS. He's now out. Hardly, it's more like a sabbatical. It's like a sabbatical. Going to prison is sabbatical.
But do you think that's the case for everybody? What about, I hear examples of gangs and you hear of gang rapes and you hear of so many different things that just frightens you and you're just never the same person. So what I'm saying, for everyone that somehow is able to secure some privileges, there are many others that they would agree with the fact that it's like the worst thing you could ever imagine.
Yeah, I suppose if you're a poor guy, poverty is the worst punishment, You are always getting the rough end of the stick everywhere you go, be it prison or wherever. But in all, if you look at, for instance, what I heard on the video there, those guys were like they were on high on something. It looked like they were.
Well, I agree. Okay, Chaka, let's leave it at that. I tell you what, my sense is that I'm not saying it's the worst thing and I'm not saying it's the best, but just my gut feeling about it is that video clip is exaggerated. Like, it was done and created to make fun. Remember, it's not an affidavit. It's not a testimony. It's a guy just saying, let me tell him what I'm doing. And he's having a bit of fun. It sounds crazy. That's just my thought on that. Thanks for that, Chaka. Right. Let's pick up another thought. Here's another on the issue of prison.
Ashraf, good day, my brother. Good afternoon, and good afternoon with your listeners too. It's Elvis here. Ashraf, our prisoners, my brother, here in South Africa, is like a hotel. That's why if a man is unable to support his kids and everything, he just commit a crime to go to jail so that he can release his stress, because he knows that when he's in jail, he's getting everything there and nobody's going to bother him with this and that and that and that. That's how our prison is. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, I wonder if that's true. We are living, and I'm going to take your point very, very seriously. I wonder if we're living in a society where there's so much poverty and deprivation that for many people, they're prepared to commit low-level crimes, knowing that if they get into prison, a lot of the things that will be paid for, like the guy said in that exaggerated video, you got no rent, you got no, but you also have no family. So I mean, how can you ever imagine, even though some things are paid for, that you have no family and that can be a good thing? I can't imagine that anybody would think, that's cool, no family. No, not possible. Right, we'll talk about Parliament, prisons and correctional services. We'll pick up that conversation after 5. Listen out for that. Parliament, what is the plan for tomorrow? We'll talk about that next.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063 408 8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, so listen, we have an opinion. I have my thoughts on some issues, but if you wish to raise some of the hottest issues that moves the national pulse, that drives that pulse straight up in some way or the other, feel free to comment on that. And I think at the moment it's very much the issues of prisons. But so the Jacob Zuma disciplinary hearing, understand has been postponed till Tuesday. We'll get an update of exactly why, because I thought it was starting today or had planned to start today. Why was it postponed till Tuesday? We'll certainly find out. But either way, that's going to happen now in a few days' time. Anybody want to comment about Zimbabwe, that conversation we had around the issues of a reconciliation around a certain community, the Gugurahundi massacre that took place in the 1980s, because we certainly covered that story. Feel free to comment. Right, but let's get on to other issues. It's the big day tomorrow. It certainly is a big day. I'm not going there. And that's not good, but many others are going. We're talking about the opening of Parliament. So what then is the state of readiness of the opening of Parliament? Let's get the thoughts of the spokesperson at Parliament, Moloto Motapo. Appreciate you giving off your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners.
And one of these days we need to do a show not on the outside of Parliament, but like in the hallowed halls of Parliament, and that would be the ultimate inside-outside broadcast. So something for us to consider.
No, that would be nice. And I'm disappointed because I thought you would have accepted our invitation to be here tomorrow, but I realized that I'm sure you have got more important things to do, Ashraf.
Well, some teams are there, and that's how we work here, and some teams go there and some don't. But next time I'll certainly be there, right? Okay, let's get to the issue. So, we are just over 24 hours to the opening of Parliament. What's the plan between now and then, firstly?
Well, what we can say, Ashraf, is that if all systems go, the presiding officers of Parliament today briefed the public, the media, on our state of readiness, on the preparations to host the opening of Parliament address. But just to contextualize it, Ashraf, to say that this is yet another phase, and probably the last phase of multifaceted project of the establishment of the 7th Parliament. We started with the first sittings, then of course the inauguration, the committee systems, the induction, and so on and so forth. And here we are now with the official opening of Parliament, and all the arrangements are in place. The presiding officers as well as the ministers from the security cluster have just concluded their inspection of the venue inside and outside to gauge the state of readiness, and they are satisfied. So it's all systems go for the president tomorrow at 7 inside the City Hall chamber, which is now, of course, designated as the Presence of Parliament, to address the nation on the priorities as well as the program for the new administration, which is the Government of National Unity. But also, as we all know, this event serves to officially open the 7th Parliament, which is a very important distinction that we must make between the opening of Parliament address and the State of the Nation address. Because the opening of Parliament address, in terms of the rules that they were adopted last year in November, it serves only for the opening of Parliament and for the new administration after the elections to address the nation through the President, of course, on the priorities and the program for the next 5 years.
So therefore, what the President will pronounce tomorrow, do we then call it a State of the Nation address, or do we call it something else?
It is called the opening of Parliament address because the State of the Nation address takes place in February. It is an annual event addressed by the President, of course, to account for the to the public and to Parliament on the commitments that his government would have made in the previous financial year, but also, of course, to outline the key priorities for that financial year in terms of service delivery to the people of South Africa. The opening of Parliament address, on the other hand, it only takes place once every 5 years, so it happens immediately after the elections. And it is really serves as an official opening of the new term of Parliament, but also the opportunity for the President to address the nation on the key priorities as well as the programs for service delivery to the people of South Africa of his new administration for the next 5 years.
And I take it, in terms of logistics, from the obvious things, that the sound must be right, that there's enough seating for the different MPs that will attend, and maybe other dignitaries and observers, to the obvious security issues and so on and so on. There's a whole series of checklist issues. What for you then would be, like, from a Parliament point of view, some of the greatest concerns that you absolutely must get right?
No, you're correct, because events and projects of this nature, Ashraf, are very challenging because we are dealing with quite a lot of people, various categories of guests, several thousands of them. Because this is a very important, like I said, opening of Parliament address, because it takes only place, it happens only once every 5 years. We have made provisions to accommodate more guests. We have got a special guest marquee that will also be that has just been erected in the parade, because as you are aware, we are now having these sittings at this kind of sittings at the Cape Town City Hall. So we've got a marquee that will accommodate quite a lot of guests, and then there will be other guests that will be accommodated in the public gallery. And of course, all the other, because you've got also, the provinces, the premiers, you've got the members of parliament, you've got all these public representatives that will be accommodated, including from SALGA, given the unitary nature of the event. So you will have them sitting in the floor of the chamber.
So in total, what would you say? How many people would attend? So in total, how many people would attend across the board?
I don't have a total number, Ashraf, but I can tell you that on the chamber, we've got just over 500 people that will be seated. That will include your members of parliament and representatives of the other spheres of government. And then, of course, in the public gallery, we have got up to, I think, about 400 to 500. And then you've got the other marquees that are outside that will accommodate just over 1,000 or so.
Okay, wow.
So it's quite a significant number compared to the previous years.
And here's the last thing before I let you go. So if someone is not part of the media, who's not an MP, who's not connected to the political parties, who's not an observer, is none of those things, and they have this intense desire to want to come on their own without a VIP ticket, can they actually do that?
No, of course. I mean, we are, that's why I'm saying we've got various categories of guests. We've got ordinary members of the public because, Parliament uses this kind of events because we are a people-oriented parliament. We are people-centered parliament. And we use this kind of events for public participation as well, which is one of the very key constitutional functions of Parliament. So we do encourage public participation, public involvement, and therefore we do make a space for not only your state agents, your NGOs, civil society, etc. We go beyond that even to provide space for.
And now we all, myself and I think the entire nation, everybody listening to the show here, they're all getting serious FOMO, and they're probably going to say, Ashraf, get us to Parliament tomorrow. Thank you for your time, much appreciated. There we are. You've got important work there, Parliament spokesperson. Ahead of Parliament opening up tomorrow for that 7th administration. Let's get the news now. It's just gone 5 o'clock with Greg Hose.
Thank you, Ashraf. More details of KZN shootout in Botswana. Opposition parties up in arms over the voters' roll. Good day to you. KwaZulu-Natal police say the 4 suspects who were killed in a shootout with police this afternoon on Moses Kotane Road in Durban were en route to execute a hit on a man and his 2 bodyguards. The suspects were also wanted for other crimes, including cash in transit robberies and murders. The 4 died on the scene, while the 5th is in a critical condition in hospital. Police spokesperson Robert Nechaunda.
The suspect got out of a moving vehicle and was shot and injured. He was found in possession of a firearm and was arrested. The number of the firearms found inside the vehicle will be confirmed once the search is completed, although police can confirm that one of the firearms found inside the vehicle is a police-issued pistol. During their interception, information and police disposal was that suspects were en route to execute a hit on a man and 2 of his bodyguards. The suspects were also wanted for murders of people mostly involved in the construction industry.
Cape Town Weather Office has issued a yellow level 2 warning or a slight risk warning for disruptive rain tomorrow. The rain could lead to the localised flooding of roads and settlements and is expected to spread to the Cape Winelands District Municipality. Damaging winds leading to difficulty in navigation at sea can be expected between Saldanha Bay and Plettenberg Bay from Friday afternoon. The Cooperative Governance Minister, Nkosini Klabisa, says he wants a memorandum of understanding to be drawn up between at least KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape to share resources in times of disaster. He says they'll start with these provinces because they are flood-prone. The minister was visiting the Boston area and the KZN Midlands, where 6 firefighters died during a veld fire at the weekend. A total of 14 people have died in fires in the province over the last week. It's also emerged that there have been at least 300 fires in KZN over the past 10 days. The minister elaborates.
We want to get into an MOU so that whenever one of the 3 provinces is being affected by disaster, we are able to mobilize quickly every human personnel to come and assist. You know, if you deal with fire for many hours, fatigue comes in. And your reading of the speed of wind might not be as fast as you started. When the people are involved in disaster, there is a need to relieve them.
We know the minister says a decision will be made by tomorrow at the latest about any declaration of a disaster.
Of government, you need to follow certain processes, document certain things. Our staff is on the ground as we are speaking, ensuring even on their side to verify the information that has been presented before us. If not before the end of the day, by tomorrow, a decision will have been made on our side. But the reason that we said, let us go there fiscally, is because we understand that from a simple point of view, this is a disaster.
Opposition parties in Botswana are complaining that they're not allowed access to the voters' roll ahead of elections in that country later this year. The leader of the Umbrella for Democratic Change, Duma Boko.
We faced a serious challenge during the voter registration exercise when we demanded that all the political parties and all interested players be allowed to observe the process of registration itself. The Independent Electoral Commission refused. We went to court to challenge, and we were saying the law does not prohibit, but the democratic ethic impels that we be allowed to observe. The courts took the view that we couldn't observe the registration process itself.
The top story, KZN police say the 4 suspects who were killed in a shootout with police this afternoon in Durban were en route to execute a hit on a man and his 2 bodyguards. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. Nelson Mandela once said,
"It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it."
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month.
Coming up in your sports, Erasmus Cuts Box Squad and Betway set to replace DStv as PSL title sponsor. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview is queuing on both routes towards Kiluli's interchange. The N4 Witbank Highway eastbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle reported after the N1 highway. In Midrand, the N1 southbound is slow moving towards Baklu interchange and the N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound, an earlier crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange has been cleared, but traffic remains slow moving. Umgeni Road northbound is queuing towards Sumiso and Kwanyana Road, and Kasir Road in Hillcrest has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions between the M13 and the N3 highways. In Cape Town, Strand Road outbound is slow moving towards the R300 highway. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 outbound is queuing towards the R300 highway, and the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, what do you want to talk about? What is it that you'd like to get off your chest? What do you think we should be talking about? We know that the Jacob Zuma disciplinary hearing postponed now till Tuesday, so there's no outcomes for that. Parliament opening up tomorrow. Any thoughts that you have based on the conversation I had with the spokesperson that you'd like to pick up on in terms of what for you? I don't mean the logistics. What for you makes Parliament work? What for you is the magic? I must tell you, every year, opening of Parliament and the swearing in of new MPs to the General Assembly, I never want to get tired of that. I never want to get tired of the announcements of, the pronouncements of an election result. I never want to get tired of it because I think those are important symbols of our democracy. By the way, talking about symbols of democracy, what about symbols of winners and champions? We chat to South Africa's Wimbledon champion. We'll chat to her. You should know that. KG, we'll go talking to her around 10 to 6. Right. Now, let's get to the issue again of the prisoners, or awaiting trial prisoners, and what lifestyle they have in Parliament. Someone said, please do a lifestyle audit on them. The context is the conversation. In fact, there's a video that's been put out of an inmate, a waiting trial prisoner, Zimbabwean-born, Zimbabwean national. I'm not too sure what he was arrested for, but anyways, a waiting trial. And he set out a video where he is glamorizing his in-prison lifestyle. Like, what a life. Free chow, no rent, toiletries are paid for. This is the life, right? And of course, it's gone viral. So that's the one thing. We've chatted to different people about it, the pros and cons about all of that. We thought, let's get the story as correctional services would understand it. So my guest now is Singabako Ngumano, who's the Department of Correctional Services spokesperson. Appreciate you giving off your time. You're on the National Pulse. Hello.
Very good afternoon, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Right. So first things first, you've obviously seen the video. Obviously, in family WhatsApp groups, we see it. We laugh, we smile, we amused, and we share it and we pass it on. What do you do when you get a video like that?
Look, the video is in a bad taste and outrageous in the sense that it makes a mockery of the correctional system. It doesn't consider all the victims of crime who have been harmed by perpetrators. So as a department, we have taken strong action against that man detailing who's seen that particular video, because what's happening is that we are mandated to make available basic necessities. But when people see those as luxuries that they must brag about, as if it's nothing to really go out and say you are living a lifestyle that ordinary South Africans do not enjoy, it's something that, we look at it as insolence of great proportion.
So I sound like a prosecutor asking this question. I mean, just for the record, right? Is his testimony, video testimony, how accurate is it?
As I've said, there are basic necessities that as a department we must provide. The Act is very clear that you have to provide nutritional needs, which are meals. You have also to provide water, medication in case people require medication, or in case their sexual health does require attention. But those necessities can never be equated to someone living an opulent lifestyle. And people glamorizing it as if what they are having is something out of the ordinary. I think it's all about just insulting, the victims of crime and South Africans in general.
Okay.
Because we are funded by the state. And I don't think that many South Africans will take it in a manner that index is making it to be.
Okay. We chatted to Golden Miles Budu as well earlier on, and this is what he said.
Well, look, this is a waiting trial, as that says there. I want this to be said by a sentence offender. That person that says these things tomorrow might be out on bail, and if there were programs, if the department was doing what the mandate says, they would never have time to play with phones that are called contraband and say all these things that are happening there. And that is why we said some time ago, go and do research in developed countries, how we could get this gadget legalized so that we use it for education, training, skills development, rehabilitation, and exposing what is happening in our prisons.
Okay.
And if you want to use it to commit further crimes, we will double your sentence if we can prove it beyond the reason of the...
So, I mean, amongst the other things that Golden Miles Budu is saying, one is saying, that's an awaiting trial prisoner, suggesting it would be a lot different if he was not. But he's also suggesting that correctional services are not doing their job.
Miles is on record having encouraged inmates to utilize mobile phones, and that is illegal. And we've engaged with him on a number of occasions, but his mandate is clear, is that we get him on board. And on what basis must we do that? So as a department, we've been looking at a number of other alternatives to say, are we able even to block the cell phone signal without affecting other radios within the same vicinity, because that could affect emergency services. So we've been looking at that to say, is it something that we can explore, also engaging with the CASA. So there are alternatives that we're looking at technologically, so that even if a mobile phone is plugged into a facility, but it is of no use because it has no signal.
Now, regarding the prisoner that we're talking about in the first place, you're saying strong action, did you say has been taken or will be taken against him?
We have, because in terms of the Correctional Services Act, it is illegal to have a mobile phone in a correctional facility. That remand detainee has been charged and has also been moved to a maximum correctional center, because clearly being in a remand facility, it doesn't see it as an appropriate center to house him. So he has been moved. Perhaps where he is now he will then have respect for the victims of crime, and also start to acknowledge that he's in a correctional facility because he has committed crime or alleged to have committed crime, because he's still trial awaiting. He's attending to court cases, and it is not just allegations of kidnapping. There are other serious charges that he's facing, murder and also making demands for ransom and other charges. So we don't see him as someone who was just out there making a funny comment. We consider him to be dangerous, and him having a mobile phone is of great risk, not just to us as correctional services, but to society as a whole.
Okay, well, you see, that's why it's so important to talk to you. So he's awaiting trial for murder and ransom. So this is a serious criminal and needs to be taken in that context, right? When you shifted him, I take it you shifted him today to maximum security, right?
Yes, we've done that.
Okay. What was his response?
He was disappointed, but we didn't have to ask for his permission and our film, because his actions were against the code of conduct for inmates. So we needed to act, and we've acted. And this would also send a clear message even to other inmates who decide that they do not want to follow procedures, that, we are able to act, and when we act, we do so without fear or favor.
Now, I mean, the broader conversation then is this, right? That just regarding, first of all, that person we're talking about now. So whatever he said and did, I asked the question. In fact, Miles Buda was suggesting he's been set up, right? And I'm accepting it's Miles Buda's opinion, right? He's saying, no, he's been set up to say that. I've also suggested that this person is deliberately and intentionally glamorizing it. It's not so much a reflection of a reality. He's glamorizing it, the way that TikTok content creators do certain things to try and gain the mileage, which he has succeeded in doing. Do you see that in the same way?
Whatever that you are trying to do, whether trying to glamorize it or but what we picked up is that the mobile phone that he was using, he had an active TikTok account, and there were a number of videos there, and some of them were posted on different dates. So I don't know whether that will then talk to someone who's being set up, because if you're set up, why do you continuously engage in the same act and also on different dates? So investigation is telling us something different from what Miles is saying. Hence, perhaps it's a good lesson for him to say, allow those in authority to provide more details before one rushing to gain some form of prominence. We are running a correctional system. We have a duty here, and if people can also respect that. We know that some are desperate to get attention, but at least just reflect on facts rather than your opinion yourself.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's a point well made. And I mean, this is the point that they have no right to use a mobile phone. So that I hear that. How they're getting it is another conversation. Now, beyond that, we had an interesting caller from a listener, because one of the other issues was, and I hear this so often, and therefore I even asked Miles Buda about this, why is Sun City, the prison, Doornkop, I think it is called Sun City, right? There is a perception from people suggesting that as tough as life is on the inside, for many people it is easier, not glamorous, but easier on the inside than on the outside. Now, there was a voice note from a listener who effectively said something similar. Now, I want to play that.
Ashraf, good day, my brother. Good afternoon, and good afternoon with your listeners too. It's Elvis here. Ashraf, our prisoners, my brother, here in South Africa, is like a hotel. That's why if a man is unable to support his kids and everything, he just commit a crime to go to jail so that he can release his stress, because he knows that when he's in jail, he's getting everything there and nobody's going to bother him with this and that and that and that. That's how our prison is. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, your response to that, our prisons are like hotels?
Ashraf, it's only a person who has never been to prison that can call a correctional facility a hotel. That I can guarantee to you. Ask anyone who has been to a correctional facility, even if it's just for a day, 2 or a week, they will tell you it's no open space. They will tell you it's definitely not a hotel. But then people love, making such statements. I always challenge them, come and spend, even if it's just 30 minutes, and hear if you still maintain that particular statement.
This sounds crazy, a suggestion. Maybe we need to do a show from a prison on the outside.
I invite you to please. We've done it with other broadcasters. Please do make an arrangement.
Okay.
I will definitely make it a point that you get to this one show. Yes.
Well done. I wonder if you're going to call it Sun City, but I'm just making the point, and you understand the context I'm saying.
And first to clarify it, we don't have a correctional center called Sun City. It's a nickname. That is called Johannesburg Correctional Facility.
Yes, I'm very aware of it. Here's the last thing, right? Just very quickly in the short time. How do you get the balance right between understanding it's a correctional services, people are there because they've committed a crime, but also understanding that they do have rights, and we have rights in this country compared to other countries where you can torture someone and nobody needs to know a thing about it. How do you get that balance right?
Okay, what's happening in South Africa, you have one system, yet different categories. You have people who are there because they still have ongoing cases. Those we call remand detainees. Then you have a sentenced population. With the sentenced population, you are able to work out correctional sentence plan where you then get to assess them and identify programs which will benefit them in terms of rehabilitation. Then those, then start to appreciate when you take them through restorative justice, why they're in prison, the harm that they've caused, and why it's important to stay in a society where there is peace. The challenges with the remand is because they are there waiting. There are no programs for them. We've started with minor programs in terms of behavior modification, but those people are in and out. They are with us today. When they go to court, some of them do not even come back. But it is only when a person has started with rehabilitation, they then start to appreciate why they're in prison and why it's important that they have to change their way of living.
And that's why you do all that you do. Appreciate you giving up your time, and thanks for this conversation. The spokesperson for Correctional Services, that's Singabako Ngumalo. There you are. You've got that now. And this prisoner on trial for murder and for ransom.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choices Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
TV licenses have developed a new GIS-linked national address database to ensure that we can communicate with all our valued license holders. We now have a visual of all licensed and unlicensed households nationwide in order to effectively communicate with you. We remind you to take note of our payment reminders and avoid paying penalties due to non-compliance or choosing to ignore your legal obligation to pay your license fees. We can communicate with all our license holders through cost-effective electronic methods, enabling us to collect license fees and continue to support the national broadcaster, the SABC, in accordance with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act No. 4 of 1999 as amended. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Right, July, as we know, is Film Month, and the KwaZulu-Natal's Tourism and Film Authority welcomed filmmakers from all over the world who are attending the exciting festivities lined up. Now, the Durban International Film Festival, that is what it's called, Durban Film Mart, and the Isipetu program, that is, the Simon Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards happens on the 20th of July. So that's what, this weekend, right? We look forward to hosting you in this beautiful province, KZN, and doing tourism and film business. So join the conversation using, and use the hashtag SSA24, SSA24, another hashtag Beyond Imagination, and a third hashtag KZN has it all.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Let me give you an update on what's happened regarding Jacob Zuma. So, he's supposed to have had a hearing today. It was going to be online. And the MK party then have issued a statement on this issue. It's been postponed till Tuesday, while Tony Ngeni attended the virtual meeting alone to convey the message that President Zuma prefers a physical hearing, as we already know about it. That's been agreed between himself and the ANC. That's what he wanted. And then after lots of debate, the NDC ruled that the matter will proceed on the virtual platform, not physical hearing. The ANC NDC, however, granted postponement to allow Ngeni to convey this message or the outcome to Jacob Zuma, and the date for that, therefore, will happen on the 23rd of July, and therefore we've had no hearing. Now, Parliament happens tomorrow. In the meantime, there's been conversations among many others, press conferences, comments. Bulelani Philip has been covering a DA press conference. Let's find out more about that. Bulelani, good chatting to you. Hi.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Much appreciate your time. Right, so you had your eyes there. We don't. You tell us what you saw and what you heard.
Basically, the DA often does hold these media briefings ahead of the State of the Nation address, but in this particular instance, the speech of the president in opening the parliament, the party, in their political regalia, not as members of the cabinet, are saying that they are quite hopeful that the president will give an outline of the government's priorities, and they are also, confident about the strategic direction of the country. They are saying that they were quite, happy around the outcomes of the cabinet Lekgotla that was held over the weekend, which gives at least the assurance that the government of national unity will be able to actually include some of the policies of the DA. And DA leader was saying that, that thing is quite encouraging, particularly now that they are part and parcel of this government of national unity. Ashraf?
Okay, so they've been quite happy. Did they give some detail in terms of the type of conversations that have taken place?
Look, he didn't want to actually scoop the president because he actually prefers that it's the president that actually gives the detail of what these parties have agreed upon. But of course, what he's saying is that in terms of the amalgamated policies that have been done by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, it does appear that these parties that are part and parcel of the GNU appear to be singing from the same hymn sheet, particularly around the issues of economic growth and job creation, which is the two things that the president is actually expected to actually highlight in his opening of parliament speech.
Did anything else come out in the Did I say breathing? Did anything else come out in the briefing that surprised you or that you'd like to punctuate?
Look, Ashraf, what I would say surprised a lot of us as the journalists who attended the press conference was that in the same breath, the DA is saying that even though they are part and parcel of this government of national unity, they will in parliament still continue to advocate or oppose some of the legislation that they have been actually against while they were in the opposition. But now that they are in this GNU, they are saying that that does not stop them from opposing legislation like the National Health Insurance, as well as the Bella Bill, as well as the issue of trying to end the key data program. So those are the two things, the one of the elements that they are saying that even as part of the GNU, they will continue to be opposing those.
And did they explain how they will do that? Because, I mean, you'd think they're part of this amalgamation, as you said. They would have threshed out certain deals and working relationships. And then if they oppose it, would that be opposing in terms of, consultation and debate at portfolio committee level somewhere else? Or would it actually be in terms of voting? When those bills goes for voting in the National Assembly, they would then vote against it?
Well, in theory, Ashraf, the DA leader was saying that they are bound to uphold the Constitution since they have taken the oath of office, and members of members of the Parliament have been instructed that they need to ensure that they hold the executive accountable. Perhaps maybe that's a theoretical way of looking at things, but whether in practice it's going to be reality, it's something that's yet to be seen. Ashraf.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Bulelani Philip, thank you for your time. Busy day for you tomorrow, I have no doubt about that, ahead of the opening of Parliament for the 7th administration. I mean, that's the work that you'd love to do, and Bulelani's got that pleasure of being on the ground for that. So much appreciate you giving off your time. Some further comments. There's a Ashraf compliments from, I think it's Caroline, saying really liking and really enjoying the show. Love that feedback, by the way. So if you're really liking what you're listening to every single day, give us a thumbs up so we know. We must repeat. Put it on repeat so we know that. That sounds like borrowing from Mamelodi Sundowns. I think it's part of their new campaign. Here's another one. In fact, there's a question mark that, let me read this quickly. I'd like to raise a concern about how companies are abusing the Mandela Day drive. I went through to Dis-Chem today. They offered me to buy stay-free maxi pads for 26 Rand a pack. The price didn't sound right, and I went online to benchmark it to find out they are overpriced and are using the Mandela Day to drive up their sales because people are not price sensitive during such periods. And I find this insensitive and unethical, where companies are using a good cause to maximize their profit margins. May you kindly look into this. Do they say, bottom line, what will they do with the extra money? That's the part you haven't quite mentioned, and perhaps you need to be aware of that, right? Okay, 5:30, news headlines. Here's Greg Hose.
Quick look at the headlines. This half hour, the MK party says it expects that the ANC will agree that former President Jacob Zuma appears in person when the ANC Disciplinary Committee reconvenes on Tuesday next week. KZN police say the 4 suspects who were killed in a shootout with police this afternoon in Durban were en route to carry out a hit on a man and his 2 bodyguards. And King Charles has outlined Britain's new Labour government's plans as he presided over the state opening of Parliament. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported on the link to the N3 south at Kiluli's interchange. All lanes are open, queuing traffic on both routes. The M1 southbound is queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. Kloorkop Road eastbound has delays towards Sierfontein Avenue. In Midrand, the N1 southbound is slow moving towards Buccleuch interchange. The N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road. And the N1 southbound has a crash reported at New Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash just before the M7 highway queuing traffic. Chris Hani westbound is queuing at the N2 highway. The N3 eastbound has a crash after Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The N3 westbound is slow moving towards the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. And Moses Kotana Road is closed at Sparks due to a police incident. In Cape Town, Marine Drive outbound in Milnerton is slow moving towards Boundary Road. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 highway. Marine Drive northbound is slow moving towards Blaauberg Road. Strand Road outbound in Bellville is queuing towards the R300 highway, and Atlantic Road in Muizenberg has a stationary bus reported near the railway bridge, causing heavy traffic in the area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right from the business of the PSL and whatever, let's talk rugby now, to me.
Yeah, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has reduced his squad from 41 to 25 players for the Portugal test after the expanded squad wrapped up their main preparations for the closing match of the Castlelager incoming series. And the decision is to give a group of players a well-deserved break from the box before they begin their preparations for the 2024 Castlelager Rugby Championship campaign. And only 2 regular players are still in the team in Ox and Chair, and Grant Williams were not released. In football, Maritzburg United CEO Jonas Kadioda says that he's willing to sell the franchise or change the name of the team if there's still no solution in the battle to return to Harry Gwala Stadium. Last season, the team of choice played all the home games in Durban after they lost sponsorship from Umsunduzi municipality when they got relegated to the Mazeppa Championship, and the sponsorship went to Royal AM, who now use the stadium for the home games.
Yeah, I think it's a decision that obviously we have to take. You know what? The reality is that we can't continue as Maritzburg United playing in Durban. I think you lose all your identity with even fans. I'm saying, you know what, the reality is that how can I look at attracting fans in Durban and I'm called Maritzburg United? You know what? So at the moment we're still hopeful of obviously securing the chance to use Harry Gwala together with Royal AM for the upcoming season. If not, then I think the club will have to make some tough decisions going forward and seeing what's best for the franchise.
Meanwhile, the start of the 2024-25 season of the Premier Soccer League is set to be delayed due to the finalization of the new sponsor. The new season was scheduled to kick off on the 17th of August, but now it might start 2 weeks later. According to SABC Sport, PSL is well in advanced talks to replace DStv as a title sponsor. Betting company Betway has reportedly backed the lucrative deal, beating rivals Hollywood Bets, who are also in negotiations with the league. Then in tennis, Rafa Nadal is on the list for the US Open draw. He has a protected ranking of 9th, which allows him at Flushing Meadows. Nadal won the tournament 4 times, but has missed 3 of the last 4 editions due to his physical problems. Then in the countdown of the Olympic Games, 9 days to go to the Paris Games. And as part of the tradition, Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo took a swim in River Seine to show that the river is clean enough to host the Games outdoor swimming events. Around 1.4 billion euros was invested to prepare the Seine for the Olympics by specifically preventing sewage leaks into the river. It's not until recently that the river failed daily water quality tests, with a lot of concern over the Seine's flow and pollution, and now it's all ready to go. And just before I leave, remember tomorrow the Rugby World Cup Trophy Tour continues at the Lodge Logan Mall in Bloemfontein, and there's going to be 5 Bok players, including Oxen Che, Lukhanyo Am, Grant Williams, and Kobus Reynolds and Trevor Nyakane that are going to be part of this parade. They'll be at the mall from 1 until 2 p.m.
But you're not going to be there?
I won't be there.
Okay.
Because tomorrow is Mandela Day, and I'm in
What's your Mandela Day plan?
I am going to spend it with the Childhood Cancer Foundation. There's a couple of companies that are going to be dropping off groceries and stuff. So I'm going to be helping them to just organize all the groceries for the kids.
Okay, fantastic. Well, why don't you tweet? You must tweet where you are. Tag us. We must share that. And I'd love to know what the listeners are doing. So I'm not going anywhere physically. Okay. I am tempted, if I've got the time. There's a TEDx that we spoke about yesterday around Mandela Day with a whole lot of speakers around the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe if I get a chance, I'll go there. But the reason I can't is what we're doing. So we as in, not on air, Champion South Africa, the project that I drive. And what we're doing is doing a series of digital activations where we're quoting Nelson Mandela on and linking it to, his call, linking it to one of the things that we feel strongly about is how do we ensure that 60 million South Africans actually get a seat at the table. So we'll use some of his quotes and match it up with a drive to getting a seat at the table like you have right now. You have a seat at the table.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. That's it for now. You better say your goodbyes.
Yeah, that's it from my side. I'm doing Khapele.
Someone said please translate that as well so we know.
God bless you.
Okay. Because someone asked me, they must have missed it the other day around. Right. Okay, got that. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks to me. Right, more to come. In fact, business coming up next.
eThekwini Municipality is excited to host the Resurgence Conference Durban 2024, an international investment conference themed Moving the Needle Towards Economic Emancipation. The conference will profile Durban as an investment city from the 17th till the 21st of July at Durban ICC. It features exhibitions, conference engagements led by global and local esteemed sectoral experts and several empowerment opportunities. Also featuring the Resurgence Gospel Fest on 20 July, headlined by American gospel legends Shirley Caesar and Bishop Hezekiah Walker. Sharing the global stage with international acts are local gospel stars Dumi Mkokstad, Ayanda Ntanzi, Oli Mwango, and Mobi Ngumalo. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro.
Shopping sprees, catching flights while others catch feelings, shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. Njofo Njof. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun, or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, let's get to the MoneyWeb market update with Jimmy Moya. Hi, Jimmy. What's the big stories today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. We're going to be taking a look at a couple of developments, starting with the budget report the budget vote report from the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. There's a conversation with the Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield there, or one of the Deputy Ministers rather, just around the strategy of the DTIC going forward, around localization and transformation. Then we've got a conversation with Peter Major around the diamond market, particularly in South Africa. It looks as though diamond production in South Africa is the lowest it has been in a decade. So we're going to look into that, try and unpack what's happening there, what the driving factors are around that. And then we've got a conversation with Investec around a new financial sector code of conduct that they're putting together. Obviously, with everything that's happened around grey listing and everything that's happened around just the need for increased market surveillance to ensure that people don't fall victims to things like Ponzi schemes and all of the things that we've seen in the markets lately. This is an initiative to hopefully combat and curb all of that. So we're going to speak to Investec around this and try and unpack what the aim of this code of conduct will be. And then because it's Wednesday, we've got our Executive Lounge feature, and today we're chatting to the Executive Director of the Rodin School. She is the first black female Executive Director to hold this position in 120 years. We're going to speak to her, understand how she got to this position, understand what she does on a day-to-day and what she does when she's not working so hard. But before we get to that, the markets haven't had a good day. They haven't had the best of days. And it looks as though this has been the theme of the week. I suspect we might see a bit of recovery in tomorrow's meeting if we do get any surprise announcements from the Monetary Policy Committee. But for now, Henku Krier joins me to give us a quick summary of what's been moving the markets today. Henku, good evening. Lovely to speak to you. Markets not doing so well. Looks like a sea of red on the equities side, but the Rand still below 18 Rand 30, I suppose.
Yes, Jimmy, good evening to you and Ashraf and Tumi, and good evening to all of our listeners. It was a sea of red, I would say, worldwide today. Even if you have a look at what's going down on the US market, the NASDAQ at this stage, sharp down and losing 2.5%, and that's got to do with restrictions on Chinese imports and exports. And then the S&P 500 losing 1.5% at the moment. The Dow Jones is trying to make up for all of these losses by trading about 0.4% stronger, but who knows, the Dow Jones might also be falling a bit in the next couple of hours of trading, still early in the day for them. In Europe, the FTSE 100 finished 0.4% stronger, but the DAX lost 0.4% today, and the CAC 40 in France finished the day unchanged completely, didn't go up or down at the end of the day. Here by us, the JSE's all-share index lost 0.8% and closed at a lower level of 80,453 points. The industrial index lost 0.6%, the financial index 1.5% weaker, and the resources index 0.1% down. Karoo had quite a nice day. It finished 4.5% stronger, followed by Montauk, which gained 3.5%, and WeBuyCars finishing 3% up. You'll also see a company like Quilter, as well as Sasol. They each finished the day 1.2% stronger. But a company that had a terrible horror day was Pick n Pay. Pick n Pay lost 17.5% today. There's also Vodacom and MTN hand in hand. They each lost 4.5% today. There's also Kumba and 91. They each lost 3.5%. And Woolies finished the day 3.2% weaker. If we have a quick glance at the 10 largest companies on the stock exchange, AB InBev gave the best performance. It gained 3.8, almost 4% today, and BATS, British American Tobacco, finishing 2.3% stronger. Glencore and BHP each finished 1.3% up. But on the negative side, among these 10 companies, the two banks fared the worst, and First Rand and Standard Bank, they each lost 1.5% today. If we have a look at the exchange rate, the Rand losing some of its strength, like you said earlier, Jimmy, now sitting at 18 Rand 25 to the US dollar, 19 Rand 94 to the euro, 12 Rand 27 to the Australian dollar, and 23 rand 70 to the British pound. On the commodities market, the price of gold is trading at $2,460 an ounce. Silver is sitting at $30.30. Platinum trading at $1,000 and palladium at $959 an ounce. The oil price is $84.70 a barrel. And then lastly, the price of a Bitcoin now sitting at $65,000, and that is 1.2 million rand. And Jimmy, that's how the markets performed.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. I certainly have an explanation as to what's happened with the Pick and Pay share price, but that explanation will follow just after 6. For now, Ashraf, back to you and the team. We'll be back a little later on.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. I can tell you now the Executive Lounge feature, I do not miss it. Now you know. All right, enjoy your show, right? Okay, more to come. In fact, so by the way, let me just tell you, we're chatting to the Wimbledon champion. Why wouldn't we have fun celebrating her, KG Manchane? Looking forward to that conversation coming up pretty shortly. There are further comments that we've had regarding prisons. In fact, here's one on the GNU. Sandile in KZN. Hi, Sandile.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for taking my call.
Much appreciated. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Ashraf, I would actually like to comment about the concept GNU, particularly what you've actually said yesterday. Remember that you actually said that it is the multi-party grouping who actually decided to name themselves as the GNU. I think it would be a miss not to correct that, Ashraf. It was Ramaphosa who pronounced on the GNU, not in the multi-party grouping. So I think we need to correct that, Mr. Ashraf.
All right, I hear you. I mean, look, you know, I hear you. Let's say that much. I'm saying to you, even if he pronounced it, when the parties that signed up to be part of this grouping, they didn't ask for a name change. And if they did, we don't know about it. But ultimately, what they've agreed upon today and what we'll see tomorrow is this group coming together and they're calling themselves the GNU. What the negotiations took place behind our backs, you know, behind closed doors, we don't know. So whatever he said publicly, the fact is they either had to agree with him or not, and they didn't disagree with him. That's why we have what we have now, a government of national unity, whether you and I personally agree with that name or not. Sandile, thanks for that call, but thanks for calling. Very quickly, please.
Yeah. No, I'll try to be quick.
Right.
You know, I think Ashraf, perhaps the question that you actually need to ask is it whether the president or Ramaphosa is actually allowed to pronounce on something that is actually not provided for in the Constitution, because he's the custodian of the Constitution. I think that is the biggest question that we should be asking as South Africans. We just need to get a clarity with regard to that.
Well, I mean, okay, so we'll stop that because I need to move on. But I mean, here's the thing, and this is what I told the MK party spokesperson yesterday. If you have a problem with his rights to even call it that, or that grouping's rights to call it that, then challenge that in Parliament, challenge that at the highest levels in the country, at the Constitutional Court. Let's do that. That's the only way we'll really, truly know. You and I can have this debate forever. So thank you for that call. Comments on prison. Ashraf, the spokesperson, our spin doctors. I was once arrested, taken to Sun City for a week in detention. And I tell you, given my privileged background, my experience there was not bad at all. That's the truth from Anonymous. Okay, further comments. And again, it's all about prison.
Afternoon, SAFM. Mike here. Brother, you know, the only thing that disturbed me a lot, that guy is a foreign national. He's coming from Zimbabwe. He's in jail now, eating my tax money. He is eating my tax money. Why don't we take these people back, brothers? Let's just, our government is just doing not enough. We just have to take these people back. Our jails are full of these foreigners. I don't understand if ever the guy doesn't have enough papers. Why are they keeping him in jail? Why can't they just send them back?
But I mean, it's easier said than done. He's awaiting trial. Remember that. He's not yet convicted. And if you heard my conversation, there's two parts to it. One part, people are saying he's illegal as a foreigner. So I don't know that. But let's see what the courts say. But the more important one, he's on trial for murder. He's on trial for ransom, hijacking ransom. This is a big, serious issue. Now, in terms of the issues about foreigners in the country and whether they're here without papers, that's a conversation I think the new Home Affairs Minister must grab a hold of, right? Because I think it's that important. You can't have people who are illegally in the country in the first place. But then once they're here, legally or not, if they've committed a crime, you can't just send people packing. There's a process that takes place that has to look at it. You made the point the prisons are full of foreign nationals. I would think there's also many South Africans who are there. It's not like they're the only ones there. I mean, we just need to get perspective. But here's another one on prison life.
Good day, Ashraf. Ashraf, I just want to make a comment. People that really state that jails are like a holiday inn or a hotel, they've never been there. I've worked for one day with the prisoners inside. Believe you me, it seems like a lifetime in there. There is no place for any human being to get caught up in jail. This comes from Terence.
Terence, I'm glad you called in. That's all I can say. I'm glad you called in, but I'm also sorry for the experiences that happens and why people even get to jail in the first place. Well, from jail to liberation of sorts, which is liberation in terms of winning a Wimbledon title, and that's the privilege of KG Manchane. We'll talk to her next.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Welcome to the SABC TV License Loyalty Program, where your payment isn't just about paying fees. It's about joining a vibrant community of connected viewers. Ready for the journey? Here's your roadmap. Sign up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and unlock an instant reward. You'll get an SMS to confirm your registration. Make a 50% or 100% payment to your account for a payment confirmation SMS and a promotional code. Explore our partners' product catalogs for an array of offerings. Receive an SMS voucher for your favorite outlet as the icing on the cake. Don't wait. Dive into a world of benefits. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So there were three significant Wimbledon events that I sort of followed over the weekend. There was the women's singles, there was the men's singles on the Sunday, and there was the women's wheelchair doubles. And that event is important because the South African participated, and that South African goes by the name of KG Manchane. So KG, welcome to the National Pulse.
Oh, thank you for having me, and good evening or good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. So I've deliberately not introduced you before I said hello to you because I want to tell this to you directly. KG Manchane, Wimbledon champion South African. How does that feel?
Yeah, man, it's such an incredible, achievement, and it's a special one. Seeing how much it makes so many South African, happy, and seeing how much everyone's just proud for being, South African. It's moment like this where we don't realize as athletes how much, people really value the power of sport, So for me, it's an incredible achievement, but I'm just happy to see how much the people are receiving it in a good way.
Well, I was telling our sports anchor Tumi, when she was here earlier on, to say, KG winning Wimbledon is effectively the equivalent of winning the Rugby World Cup, because it is. I know one is singles. I know you played in pairs versus a 15-man team, but in fact, the impact is the same. Do you see it like that for you? Like you've won the equivalent of a Rugby World Cup for yourself and for your country?
I mean, I think you're putting it in the right way. I think it is equivalent. It's Wimbledon after all. And it's just unfortunate that sports like wheelchair tennis in the country, it's not as popular as any other team sport. So it's not so many people who follows it. So I just feel like. Yeah, tennis it just doesn't receive, the same reception as the other team sport. Maybe it's because it's not being followed enough. So I don't know, but that's just the difference. But other than that, I mean, it's still a world stage, we're competing against the other,
Absolutely.
people from the other world.
And what it means, you're best in class. I mean, that's really bottom line to it, right? Nobody's saying you must play rugby, but in your space, you the best in your space. You made the point that sometimes you as a sports person, you're not really aware of the reaction and the impact of your win has on a country. So you win the title, you get a medal, you get a trophy, and you come back home, and then you see what? I mean, I saw the pictures at the airport. I saw all your friends and your chommies and your supporters. And then you see like social media has just been blitzing away for the last few days. Why were you not aware of the impact you're going to have? And when you then do come back and you see that sort of impact, what do you feel about it?
Yeah, because it's not something that I really see or feel along the year, when I compete in other events, so which it's quite sad because it's almost like we love victory more than anything in this country, and it just takes a lot. Actually, it takes a lot for us as athletes to really get the successes like we get, or when we compete at this high level and we get to do well. It takes a lot of hard work. No one sees what happens in the background. So that's why when I just came back, I just kept saying, this victory, it's for all my sponsors, man, because they supported me at my lowest. They came through and I had nothing, and they believed in me, and yeah, those are the works that people don't really see. Those sufferings of going to Wimbledon for the first time without a coach, without money. And it's these sponsors that come through and be like, we're the ones to support your dream. And I just felt like this victory actually is for them more than anything else. But it warms my heart to see that, it makes South Africans be proud to be, South Africans. I think that's the least I can do for the people.
Well, I'm just thinking about yourself, and you're facing a service, and you don't want the game to go to a third set. And I've heard you say you don't want that to go to a third set, so you try and win it in two, right? And that's its own hurdle, right? But I'm not going to talk about tennis here. What was the hurdle for you when you said you had nothing? And you wanted to go to Wimbledon, you had no money, you had nothing. And I'm not talking about this year, we're talking about before, right? What was your state of mind then before the sponsors came on board?
Yeah, I mean, it was the end, it was, I think at some point in my career, I did reach a dead end, and that was 2018. And when I got a wild card into Wimbledon that particular year, I was just like, this is going to be my last, and I have to make it the best, only to find out that was when my career was going to be, given a second chance. So for me in 2018, I had reached dead end. I mean, when I say I had nothing, I had no individual sponsors. Wheelchair tennis as a sport had lost its biggest sponsor that it supported since it started. So we had nothing as wheelchair tennis. And for us as players, we were left to go out and look for our own sponsorships. So 2018, that was the end of my career, to be honest.
I'm thrilled between you and your management team and your sponsors. They've turned that dead end into something that's, there's light at the end of a dead end tunnel. I mean, now we know that, right? But just quickly before we wrap up, therefore, so going forward, I mean, now you're not in the dead end scenario. How do you build on winning? You've won previous Grand Slams, but how do you win on winning at Wimbledon, and how do you build on that in terms of not just tennis, but in terms of your life?
I mean, it's just a matter of to keep putting my head down and working hard, because I keep saying that I feel like I keep winning the wrong Grand Slam because I really want to win the singles Grand Slams too, So when I win that one, I'll be like, I think I've made my mark, So it just takes a lot of hard work, and obviously this win on its own, it's just motivating me to really keep working hard, to keep believing in myself, because there are those who believe, like my team believes in me so much. So this is just what I needed at this point in my career. I was injured for the past year and a half, and now this is happening. So this is just a great motivation for me to just keep going. And also to keep inspiring the next generation to believe that they can pick up a racket and become, a champion, a better champion than me one day.
Well, we love the fact that you are a champion. So here's the last thing, just a quick one-liner because we have to wrap up. What for you is your greatest strength?
My greatest?
Strength.
Oh, I think my greatest strength is just resilience, man. I just have this ability to bounce back in life. Whatever life has thrown at me, I've just always find a way to just
well, there you are.
get
So there
back
you are.
and.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because there's a phrase South Africans always make a plan. So there we are, KG Montjane with the resilience that she has. She always makes a plan, and a winner at the Wimbledon wheelchair doubles. What a champion and what a privilege to talk to you, KG. It's a great thrill, absolutely. And a great way to end the show as well. And an absolute high that raises the level of the national pulse for all the good reasons indeed. So, KG, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Great show as always. Love the engagement. Love the comments. The whole team putting it all together. We make it happen. Check out on my Twitter feed as well. There's pictures as well as on LinkedIn and Instagram of my entire team that makes up this team that we call the National Pulse. It's 6 o'clock. Time for the news with Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, Zuma ANC disciplinary hearing postponed and more details of fatal KZN shootout. Good evening to you. The disciplinary hearing against former ANC President Jacob Zuma has been postponed to next week, Tuesday. He was taken to the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee for his endorsement of the MK party ahead of the May elections. The former ANC president was represented by former ANC NEC member Tony Ngeni at a virtual hearing. Sibakle Mota reports.
Zuma, through his representative Tony Ngeni, says that he should be allowed to attend the hearing physically